There we go. Here we go. So, those of you who don't want to be seen, you can turn off your cameras. Those of you who want to speak, speak plainly, clearly, and politely. Okay. Yeah, one of these days when Susan's taking a long nap, hopefully I'll be able to focus on getting some of that done, as opposed to going running down some rabbit hole again.
Mm.
Um, yeah, my preoccupied brain has too many things that come up that are interesting. It's such an interesting world, it's really hard to not look at all this interesting stuff that's coming up. Okay, so anybody have any announcements, anything they want to mention quickly, briefly, otherwise, before we get into the program? Okie dokie. Well, thank you all for coming. I do really appreciate it. So, um, let us get let us share here. So, Microsoft. Here we go. All right, let me see if this is going to work now.
Yep.
All right, you're there. Okay, come on. Oh, no, come on. Right. Do you see the just the main screen there? The first slide?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Cool. Goody, goody. Okay. Here we go. Right. So,
We are
first
seeing
thing up.
those two strange gray boxes, one at the top and one on the right side, Jim, that are kind of
Yes.
covering. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That's it's to be expected. That's where they live. Okay. So next month is May. The second Sunday is May 10th, which is Mother's Day. And so, would you prefer to meet on May 3rd or May 17th, since allowing all of you ladies, everybody to enjoy Mother's Day?
Hmm. I
So we
know
can go in
my son is coming down from Portland, so I'm going to be with him
on the 3rd or the 10th. Well,
whenever Mother's Day is.
Yeah, that's why he's
oh, yeah.
asking where do you want to meet, Cornelia? You want to meet on the
Which
third or
Sunday
the
do you prefer?
17th?
The Sunday before or the
Oh,
Sunday
I don't
after?
care. Whatever one anyone picks, I'll do that.
Okay. Well, do we have a consensus? Would you prefer the 3rd or the 17th?
I think
17th will
I
be
can
in
do.
5 weeks.
The third, because the 17th is void of course.
Hmm.
Okay. That's good.
That's my vote.
Go for void of course. All right. Nothing will come of it. Um,
If it's void, of course, it's a good time to just lay back and have a discussion.
Well, that's true.
yeah. Yeah, I think what I had tentatively put on the agenda, let me see my um see the third, let's see, on the third, the moon will make starts the day with a quincunx to Mercury, opposes Uranus, then trines Neptune, trines sextiles Pluto, all that before noon, and then in the evening it will trine Saturn. And all of those are pretty much with the exception of the opposition, they're all waning aspects, which is kind of like a good time to get things finished. The 17th. Oh, but the moon doesn't go void of course until after we start, so that's not a biggie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we have starts with the moon sextiling Neptune. Mercury enters Gemini, then the moon will trine Pluto, Venus sextiles Chiron, and those are waxing aspects. And that's all before the meeting starts. And then the moon will sextile Saturn at 12:36 p.m. and go void, of course, for the rest of the day. Later that afternoon, Mercury will conjunct Uranus.
Whee!
Let's do the 17th.
Okay,
And that gives us 1, 2,
5 weeks.
3, 4 Sundays before we meet again.
Gives us a 5 week break.
14th of June,
Okay,
right?
works for me. I'm fine. Yeah,
Okay.
what I thought, well, we can talk about that. I think what I've got on the agenda for then is we'll talk about Uranus and Gemini, but also the Uranus Sedna conjunction that's coming up. And then I think I was also thinking in terms of maybe a continuation of what we talk about today. So let's see what kind of experiences you have, if any of you can follow what I'm going to talk about and decide you want to take a look at it for yourselves.
Mm.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts before we keep moving here?
So what
Okay.
did we decide? The 17th
We're
of,
the 17th.
okay.
We're going for the 17th, which works out fine. Here's the upcoming significant events, which takes us to the 17th. I was thinking ahead. So
Yeah.
this evening, Mars will conjunct Neptune at 10:30. So just for those of you who are tuned in to transits. On the 14th, Mercury will go void of course and then enter Aries. On the 15th, taxes are due. The moon will conjunct Mercury, Neptune, Mars, and Saturn. So the moon makes
Mercury
four
goes
conjunctions.
Mercury goes void, of course, the day before taxes are due.
Yeah.
I'll have fun.
Mhm. But then it enters Aries same day. So
Uh,
it's a short void, of course, for Mercury. And then on the 16th, the Sun will conjunct Chiron and Mercury will conjunct Neptune. On the 17th, we have the Aries new moon, 4:52 in the morning at 27 Aries 29, after which both the moon and the sun go void, of course. Moon doesn't last long. 18th moon will conjunct Venus, so we get the ladies getting together again. That's going to be hopefully a comfy time. On April 19th, there will be 7 major aspects. That's next Sunday, including Mars conjunct Saturn, and then Sun will also enter Taurus that day. On the 20th, Mercury will conjunct Saturn and then conjunct Mars, and Saturn will enter his shadow for his coming retrograde. That's when he crosses that point that he stations direct on in December. Okay. The 22nd is Earth Day, which I didn't put in here. On the 23rd, we have 5 major aspects, including Venus conjunct Uranus, after which Venus goes void of course and then enters Gemini. On the 25th, the Sun will square Pluto and Uranus will enter Gemini. On the 26th, we have 3 major aspects and 3 quincunx aspects. So that could be a real
mm.
interesting day. Then on the 28th, there will be 6 major aspects. April 30th, Mercury will go void of course. The moon will square Pluto for the last aspect of April. This is going to be a long Mercury void of course. May 1st, we have a full moon at 11 Scorpio 21. It's, depending upon how you want to look at it, it's a blue moon because there will
Mm.
be another full moon at the end of May. And the odd, the odd thing is, we think of blue moons when there's 2 in a month. So if you think of it from the standpoint of 2 in 1 month, then the next moon will be the blue moon. If you think in terms of the older definition where you have um, 4 full moons in a season, then it's the 3rd full moon that's the blue moon, not the 4th one. Go figure.
I bet that's gonna
But
be a
anyway, we
big
have a
day
blue
on
moon
May.
in May.
I bet that's gonna be a big day, a May Day, because that's Global Workers' Day
Yeah.
with a full moon. So expect that to be
Yes.
a big.
Should, yeah. Should be fun. On the 2nd, Mercury will enter Taurus.
Mm.
May 3rd, there'll be 5 aspects by the moon. And then we can scratch that Santa Monica Astrology Zoom meetup because it goes down there on the 17th. Okay, I put it in both dates just in case. May 4th, Venus goes out of bounds north. So your love life could take an interesting turn. Somebody new may come into your life. For those of you who are looking for love.
What day is that?
May 4th.
Oh,
It's a Star Wars day.
oh.
May the 4th be with
May
you.
the fourth be with you.
Uh-huh. May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. May 6th, Pluto stations retrograde. So now we begin the long rest of the year. There will be at least one planet retrograde all the time. Sometimes three or four. I think we max at four. I don't know if we get to five or not. My memory isn't serving me that one. May 9th, moon wobble begins. So expect a little extra chaos, increase in frequency or volume of power of natural and man-made disasters.
Getting
May 10th, Happy Mother's Day. May 12th, six major aspects. May 14th, Mercury superior conjunction Sun. That's when Mercury is direct and on the far side. Plus Mars and Venus will both go void of course at different times. May 16th, we have a new moon. 25 Taurus 58, which is getting pretty comfy with Algol, the accursed star. And then on the 17th, as we've decided, we'll have our Santa Monica Zoom meetup. Mercury will go void of course and enter Gemini, and then conjunct Uranus.
Interesting.
Sounds like a fun time. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Here we go. Okay. So, I figured I should start by offering my definition of what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of and thinking about prenatal astrology. It's basically the mother's experiences and the astrological events that happen prior to your birth. Now, what period are we talking about? At a minimum, I would, if you're going to look into it for yourself, and the way I look at it, I would say at a minimum, it's from conception to right before the moment before birth. That's all prenatal. And, you can, if you want to think in terms of, I would, you could do like a cut off like 1 minute before you're born or the ascendant degree, 1 degree prior to your natal ascendant degree. But you have to figure out conception. When were you conceived? Um, so unless some of you have this information that you got from your mothers, who shared that with you if they knew, um, the probably the most common astrological approach is one where you take, starting from your birthday, you go back 10 lunations, and then you look for that date and time when basically your natal moon and ascendant switched spots, switched as zodiacal positions.
Say that again,
Okay.
please.
You're looking for the point in time when, and let me see if there's something important. Hello? Hello?
1 degree prior to natal.
Okay, never mind. I wasn't sure. I thought, well, maybe it's somebody that can't get in or wants to get in. Okay. So, for example, my natal moon is at 13 degrees, 12 minutes of Sagittarius. My ascendant is 17 degrees, 17 minutes of Sagittarius. Even for my conception chart, it goes back the 10 lunations, which takes it back to December. And then it looks for, the computer does this. Thank you, computers. The date and time when the ascendant was 13 Sag 12, and the moon was close to, somewhere in that close vicinity around like 17 or thereabouts of Sagittarius. So basically, you're like most people have the moon in one sign and their ascendant's another sign, and so basically those two are switching signs and degrees. That's how they calculate it, determine it astrologically.
So you go back how many signs?
You go back 10 lunations, which is 40 weeks, and then you look for um, that. Yeah, you can probably find a program online that will, if you don't have astrological software, that will do it for you, and SolarFire does it for you, um, and it will give you. So, why are you calling me, Spencer? Hang on. Yes, Spencer.
Uh,
Are you? Oh, there you are.
yeah. Uh, I'm in, but I'm not in, so I don't know what to do. I'm maybe I'm in.
You're online. You're in.
We
What's up?
see you.
Yeah, we
Well,
see and hear you.
I was just going to sit in and hear because Jim has told me this and it's brilliant, and
Yeah,
I want to sit in on it.
yeah, that's me. Okay. Um, yeah, so you go back 10 months, like SolarFire will do it. In SolarFire, if you go and click on file, I think it is, and you look down, there's actually one of the lists under there is prenatal, and you click on that and you get some option. It's the Bailey conception chart from, I think, Alice Bailey. Um, um, but the other option would be, so why not go back to the point of your first potential? And first potential would be when your mother was still in her mother's womb, and we're looking at somewhere around the end of the between week 20 and the second trimester, somewhere in that range. At that point, the female fetus has more potential eggs than she will be born with. Um, okay. Why prenatal? Okay, so let's now that we have an idea what I'm talking about the time before you're born. But why? I think everybody here, we can probably all agree that I would hope we could agree that something about astrology works for some reason. Otherwise, we wouldn't pay attention to, we wouldn't care about transits or anything else for that matter. Um, so, astrology works, yes. Transits work. Yes, yes, yes or no?
Yes,
You?
Mhm.
Um,
not always the way you expect them to.
so if these transits affect us after we're born,
Why not? Yeah.
why aren't why aren't they affecting us? I mean, they obviously are affecting our mother when we're in the womb. It's not like they only affect me; they don't affect her. She's just a woman. No, it's not like that, and it's not like, well, she's whatever happens, what happens to her. No, because biologically, scientifically, medically, we know that what happens to the mother while she's pregnant can
It affects the
positively or
fetus.
adversely
Mhm.
affect the,
Mhm.
the fetal development and the birth experience. So that's why I think it becomes important to look at what was going on before we're born during that prenatal period. Now, carrying that thought
I can say,
back, it's like, okay, well, let's see now. Before you're conceived, here's mom. She's living, having her life, but she's got all those little eggs in there. Well, they're not really eggs; they're oocytes that will be one of which will become an egg during the menstrual cycle, and one of those eggs will become you. So in some capacity, you, the potential you, your mother's carrying around the potential you before she's even born. Now, they estimate that at peak time, when during the fetal development, the female fetus may have 5 or 6 million of these little oocytes, potential eggs, but a lot of them then get absorbed or disposed of before she's actually born. And then once they're born, the natural course is that these oocytes get they get lost, disposed of, um, even before puberty starts. It isn't until puberty that one of them will have the potential to become an egg, to become a somebody. And the other day, I was going through smart news on my phone while watching some TV show of some sort. That didn't hold my complete attention. And I came across this exchange um, with women talking about experiences that either their mothers or grandmothers or great grandmothers may have had that they know of through the family
Mm.
story. And I mean, there's stories of like, well, my great grandma, she got married at 15 and she had a kid every year until she died with the last one at 31 or 32 or whatever. Or she had, 15 kids, and then, he died and she was happy again. Um, those kind of stories.
Hey, Jim, I wanted to chime in real quick with some quick, how science eventually figures out what astrology or, folk wisdom has always known.
Yeah.
One was that those of us that had parents or mothers in pregnancy that were very stressed, that pregnancy, they produced a ton of cortisol and adrenaline in their body, and it created in many cases, a 15% larger amygdala in the infant, leading to all kinds of challenges. And the same is true with if we've had childhood trauma or trauma within our life or just intense experiences. But then the same holds true. Some of the very first charts that I did were not just my chart, but my mother's and my grandmother's. And then also this preconception, that at 4 months of gestation, about the ovum is developed in the female fetus. So I really tied this together with something called intergenerational trauma. They are experiences that our genes may remember, but without us or our parents or our mother knowing.
Yes.
For example, the grandfather gets in a terrible accident, or I was actually in utero. Both of my paternal grandparents were died while I was in utero.
Mm.
Right. And I didn't discover this actually until very recently. It was never discussed in my family, or things that my grandparents experienced, immigrating from Europe in poverty, etc. Things that I had no knowledge of, but there were evidence in my biology and my nervous system that we have something called intergenerational trauma, where scientists now will take rats or mice and expose them to a stressor like a shock with the smell of a perfume, and then their third and fourth generations down will have that same shock response without the or just with the perfume, not the shock. So that we have in our biology, that we can see in the astrology chart, something of all of the people that came before us. So
Yes. Yes, that is very true. And it's interesting that science is finally catching up to us, starting to understand all of that.
Okay,
Um,
I think.
so,
This is what Jungian therapists will talk about.
mhm,
You know, who's that famous Jungian therapist that's also an astrologer? Liz Green.
yeah.
She'll talk about this, but
Um,
other ones will talk about this too, and Jung will talk about this too. And it's really kind
mhm,
of interesting because there's a series on PBS called Call the Midwife. It's in its
yes.
seventh or eighth.
Hmm.
It takes place right after World War II in London, but it's so interesting because you follow the midwives and the mothers, and you can see the traumas. You can see some of the stuff that we're talking about.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
Gab,
yes. So, Um,
Mate talks about this, that he was born as an infant, a Jewish infant during the Holocaust in Hungary, where his mother had to, you know, try to pass him off during childhood. And he said at the time, and his mother wrote in journals at the time
Mm.
during the Holocaust, that she spoke to the doctors and said, "My baby's always crying." And he said, "Yes, all the Jewish babies are crying."
Aw.
So it was, that
Yeah.
tells the entire story.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
hmm Okay. Let's just we're going to skip that part. Okay, here we go. So, we've talked about people talk about nature versus nurture, and that's kind of what we've been talking about. Nature being genetics that we inherit from our parents. So basically, we get 50% from our mother and 50 from our father. Well, they got the same percentage, 50-50 from their parents, which means that basically we're getting 25% from each of our four grandparents, 12.5% from each of our great grandparents. Unless somebody had a weird situation where they had one great grandparent that fell into both lines. Um, and then there's something called fetal onset. And that's where I really got going on this was when I came across an article on fetal onset. Well, I was waiting in the doctor's office and it was in I keep forgetting what it was. I think it was a Newsweek, maybe, or something, a magazine, one of those news magazines that they used to find
Mm-hmm.
all over the
Mm-hmm.
doctor's office. Um, and it was about this British doctor back in the 80s who was working in this one particular area, and he was finding that a lot of the people there had heart conditions, and he was trying to figure out why, because there wasn't something going on that um,
Mm.
little messages pop up on my screen sometimes, and if I get in here to look and see what it's all about. Um, and so he came up with a theory, at least, that it was because of the diet that the mothers were on going through and the environmental exposures that the mothers went through during the pregnancy. That was what was influencing this high percentage of people with heart disease that couldn't be attributed to some other cause. It wasn't like they were, chronic smokers, drinkers, or,
Mm.
obese or any of those other things that we might associate with them. Those a lot of times it they're finding that even that relates back to the pregnancy. Um, we know that with it's there's an indications that if early in the pregnancy, and I mean very early, if the mother has a very low iron level, it is possible that the sex of the embryo will change. So rather than becoming a male, it will become a female, which is kind of trippy. I wonder, got me wondering if there's
When
any
Coco
connection
Chanel
between,
died in 19.
excuse me. Um, yeah, so it's interesting because it got me wondering then about trans people in particular. It's like, what what happened during their mother's that pregnancy? Did something happen early back when the switch was supposed to be flipped for, oh, you're supposed to be a boy, but because mother had very low iron, the female it developed as a female, even though there was still this potential male. So I just curious about that. I don't know if there's
Right.
any
Yeah.
connection or not. So the other things that happen from my perspective, from a nature standpoint, are all the predictable known progressions, regular converse, and astronomical events, all the eclipses, conjunctions, all the things that were happening to mom's chart, mom, that she was experiencing. Because we know how those things can affect us, some of you anyway. Uh, but how is it affecting mom? And now, how does it affect her now that she's pregnant? Um, because in that same article, it talked about how a study was done in Israel where women who were pregnant during the 67 war, they were following up with their children, and their children had a much higher um, occurrence of schizophrenia and other psychiatric conditions
Hmm.
because of the stress the mother was under,
Yeah.
the fighting, the bombing, and everything. Nurture, here we're talking about family dynamics. We know that birth order makes a difference because it's all in how they fit into the family dynamic. Environmental exposures, both physical and social, friends, the neighborhood, uh, other things that affect, of course, during the gestational period is those things the mother may have been exposed to, medications she may have been given, things that may have happened early on before she even knew she was pregnant. Um,
Jim,
so conception to birth, this is kind of a rough summary. From conception to the 10th week, sex is determined. It's the embryo stage. Organs are forming. That's when the embryo is most susceptible to conditions that can be caused by outside exposures because the organs are forming. Um, by the end of the first trimester, week 12, 13, the sex organs have formed. The female begins forming her eggs. The brain and the brainstem are not fully formed yet, but most of the other organs are fully formed, though in miniature, of course. Nearing the end of the second trimester, the female has a surplus of potential eggs in the range of 4 to 6 million of them. Um,
To be
the fetus
safe.
can hear and respond to sounds by the 25th week. So it's like, yeah, play nice music, talk softly, uh, you know, do those kind of things. And that's why it's interesting that, you know, when I talk with clients about it, I always encourage them to, you know, if you can, talk to your mother, or if there's another female around that was like an aunt or something that you could talk with to find out what was your mother's pregnancy experience like when she was pregnant with you, because it can give you some great insight into yourself. So, but then after the 25th week, during that third trimester, some of those potential eggs are getting kind of flushed out. Um, she may end up with 1 to 2 million of them by the time she's born, but she's born with all of them. Now, there is there are some potential that some claim that there is some evidence, or maybe that the female continues to form oocytes after she's born, but there's nothing conclusive yet. So the generally accepted point is that you're born with all your eggs, and then you start losing them, potential eggs. Um, they don't start becoming eggs until after puberty, and that's when all the fun starts. Males, on the other hand, don't develop sperm until puberty. Um, Quality of the eggs and the sperm begins to decline sometime in the mid to late 30s into the 40s. So older men who have babies with younger women, um, those infants have a higher incidence of birth issues. um, doesn't mean there's going to be a bunch of them running. Yeah, that's going to be something major, but there's a greater potential for problems.
Yeah, there's in my experience is learning disabilities from teaching.
Yeah.
Seeing the older the male parent is, and it's frequently blamed on the women. But
Of course, it's going to blame on the women.
it's frequently blamed on the women, but it's actually
It's
usually
the excess sperm.
Well, it's like infertility. It's like all, they always start with, oh, she's infertile. It's her fault, not mine. My God, these little swimmers here, they're good and gone. Yeah, maybe not, dude. Maybe yours are all coming out dead. You're just shooting blanks. I know.
Now they can test, but years ago
Yeah,
they couldn't.
yeah. It was always easier to blame the woman because she was second class anyway.
Hey, Jim, I just wanted to add up to before the another slide passes this concept of what happened during 67 in the war in Israel. That this
Hmm.
is also there's ties, of course, with anybody that's Israeli because of the I had older adult Holocaust survivor students that also participated in the Nakba and the founding of Israel,
Mm.
and of
Yeah.
course the Jewish history. So I would say there were probably every generation, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was just, a study that established that this is a fact. So yeah, think back to World War II. Think back to
Oh, I'm
not
thinking of
just the
longer.
women in Europe or in Asia that were going through this, but think about our mothers here. Maybe dad's off fighting a war, and mom finds, when dad takes off and mom finds out she's pregnant. It's like, imagine her stress
Right. Well, I was
because there's
specifically
no
thinking
guarantees
about
coming back.
yeah, I was specifically thinking about the
Yeah.
Jewish history in Europe, which goes
Yes.
back,
But yes.
thousands
Yes.
of years of persecution.
Hmm. Um, okay. Okay, fetal onset. What we've just been talking about, fetal onset. Those are conditions that begin during development of the fetus. It could be from a genetic or environmental exposures, such as trauma, prescribed medications. Think thalidomide. That's a biggie that just
Oh,
quickly comes
that
to my
was
brain.
big. Oh yeah, you and I, yeah.
That was that was weird. Yeah. The
The
drug,
thalidomide
alcohol
babies
use.
that came out with less legs, and oh my God, it was so sad.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. And thank you, mega Republicans. I know that you want women to go ahead and keep having those kind of babies and let the woman take care of it. You're going to make people have children that, let have them go through the full pregnancy and have the dead baby delivered or have the baby come out and die within the first day. It's like, yeah, that's okay. Rather than having an abortion and saving them a whole lot of trauma. Okay, that's my thought there. So yeah, and I mean we're all exposed to these contaminations. We know that
What? Why were they
anything.
given? What medication were they given that it was thalidomide? What was that?
It was for I think it was actually it was created in Germany, and I think the idea was for relieving early
Or
symptoms
morning
like,
sickness.
yeah, morning sickness or something. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, the
and these
the only
these
good thing
babies
is
were
that,
coming out without limbs.
yeah, is that it while it is widespread as the use may have been and as much publicity as it got, it wasn't like there were, millions of these babies born. Thank you. Um, but yes, I think the company went out of business.
You wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Um,
I noticed one thing about the Beat Generation, the ones that were using a lot of drugs. We had an uprise in autism.
Mm.
mhm.
I was wondering if
Yeah.
there was a connection to that.
This is the
And now
kind
they
of
are
thing that
finally.
called the midwife talks about because it
Mhm.
Right.
starts after World War II and now they're up to 1970. So they go through some of these different, um, you know, things that happened.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're really big on it because they're all midwives and nurses, and so they talk about that.
Yeah, I think
Right.
there was a
And
big
it is an interesting show.
yeah, there's a
Um,
big uptick of people with ADHD with
mhm.
the Gen X because many of them were children of the baby boomers.
The
Mhm.
baby, what,
And
hon?
it's
The baby boomers,
Oh, the
children,
baby boomers.
children of the
us,
baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
us is
Mm-hmm.
us, Rita. Uh,
Us, yes.
What's interesting too is that now with the medical and scientific advances, I mean, they can actually test, find out if the developing embryo slash early fetus, because the fetus it becomes a fetus
Mm.
by the end before the end of the first trimester, has some type of significant disability or condition that might even prevent it from surviving birth or living much for much more than yeah, a day or two. Though there are weird situations where I know every once in a while I'll come across an article about, there's a baby that was born with almost no brain, and yet the baby survived and is thriving.
Mm.
It's grown up and is basically as thriving as it can be. So it's like the body is weird. It can do some strange things. But yes, but I mean, things like type 1 diabetes, schizophrenia, asthma, autism, anxiety disorders, heart disease, babies born addicted to drugs because of the mother's drug addiction or fetal alcohol
That's
syndrome.
so sad. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that, unfortunately we deal with. And the sad part is that it tends to show up more it seems to show up more in poorer areas,
Hmm.
less affluent areas. And as a result, they're the people that are probably less able to deal with something of this nature in the long run, and really don't have the means or the opportunities to receive the kind of care that could be helpful.
It was
Yeah.
1970. Yeah. I was married in 69. 1970, I got a chance to go through Europe for 6 months to go to a lot of the festivals. It was my part in the Vietnam War. It was a multimedia environmental protest rock musical. The New York Shakespeare Festival helped support it, and we went all through Europe. But I remember, what was I going to say? We were just talking about something.
Mhm.
Something, something about the diseases.
Yes.
I'll try thinking about it again.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It was
Sooner
something
than that.
about the diseases that were
Okay.
coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about another thing,
Yes.
because one of the things that affects children in poorer classes is the lack of nutrition.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. Oh, I know
Yeah.
what it was. We got to Amsterdam and they were giving out like a hallucinating drug, an LSD, and that people were
Yes.
taking it. And I took a little half of a one and I went, I'm never doing this again. And I said, I'm going to have children. I'm not never doing that again. But
When
so
were you
many of these
there? I
people,
was there in the 70s.
well, we probably saw each other, probably. We didn't know it.
I remember
Hey,
all
old
the
friends
guys
connecting.
sitting
Oh,
there
yes.
smoking dope
Excuse
on
me.
the corner. There were
You
so
saw me.
many hippies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were all hippies.
Right.
We were all hippies back then.
You
Yeah.
know,
And
I'm
in
one of those
Amsterdam,
rare.
they said, well, it's pure. You can get really good, pure stuff. It won't affect you. And I went, oh
Yeah.
no, I'm seeing colors. I said, no, I'm too
Yeah.
sensitive. This is it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's kind of like, well, marijuana is safe. Well,
Maybe if I
maybe not,
had
depending
been
upon how
older
much
and
you
had
smoke.
my children already, but I
Yeah.
knew I was going to have children. So I went, no.
Yeah. Okay. So, phobias. Um, I have a couple of phobias that are a little on the, heights.
Phobias?
Yeah. And the other thing I really is bridges over water,
Mm.
or bridges in general, but bridges over water, bridges because
That
if they
is
go up high,
interesting. Yeah.
then yeah. And if even a low bridge that just goes over the river, yeah, bridges over water. The water is kind of a issue
Too.
for me.
Do you
Me
know
Yeah.
where
too.
So I
you
have,
may have gotten it?
well, the question is, where do phobias come from? Well,
Hmm.
apparently they can develop from a traumatic experience.
Yeah, right.
Um, could be genetics. There is some indication that some certain types of phobias are more likely to happen in people who have a relative with that type of phobia.
Hmm.
Um, it could be something that maybe it's from something your mother experienced when she was pregnant with you,
Hmm.
or and here's my quantum leap. Perhaps it's something left over from a past life. Thank you, reincarnation, for that.
Yeah.
I treated a
I don't
little
Um,
know if we
girl
can
for
ever prove it, but
I treated a little girl for phobia at one time, and it all happened before she was 2 years old. Her mother was going through a terrible, trying to get away from an abusive husband,
mm,
and
mhm.
yeah, uh, she went to a motel, and the guy tried to get in through the window.
mm, mm.
Uh, and when he had her, he left her out in the middle of the street. So many things happened to this little girl, and I said, "Well, I'm going to have to treat her in a different way because you can't reach these early experiences when she was an infant."
Yeah.
because all her phobias were about people trying to get in through the window. She was afraid of the dark. She wouldn't sleep in her own room. And they didn't know what to do with her. So I had to use special techniques with her to really get over that. That was
Yeah.
really a difficult case.
I
Hmm.
bet. Well,
Yeah.
she was lucky to have you to help her.
I
Hmm.
used Alcia Jolie's terms and a lot of things magical. Like I gave her my magic beer, you know.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Magic can work.
you have to use all kinds of creative things when
You know,
you.
this is kind of off the subject, but kind of in it, is it nature or is it nurture when you
Hmm.
get these things? But you see that little monkey that was rejected by his mother, and he's doing so well now, and he's got a red toy monkey, and now he's helping other little monkeys. What was his name?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know
I
if I
don't
can pull it up
remember.
again. But it
Punch.
was just so interesting because is it nature or is it nurture? And
Hmm.
this monkey just rejected her own baby. Other people rejected it. Then somebody gave it a red IKEA monkey. It started nurturing that, and now it's nurturing other people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I
It's that.
became a therapist.
Yeah. Um, it's well, it's not common. It's not unusual for a new mother in the animal kingdom to reject the baby because it's like, what are you? What am I supposed to do with this now? Not all of them get that natural mothering instinct gene, it would seem, from their mothers.
I'm
So I don't.
wondering if in the animal kingdom, which could be in the human too, I'm wondering if they have a sense that that new infant animal is not it's not psychological. They have an instinct that maybe it's not going to thrive or it's going to be more difficult or something like that. Because I know
Mm.
from what my studying that with humans, there's all this unconscious projections and stuff that you can put on the
Hmm.
child. But I don't know if mother a monkey would know that about an infant monkey, but it might look and say, it's too difficult. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if they're going to
Well,
study that.
I thought about that when I got this little kitten that was found outside of the children's center where I was.
Mm,
And the only reason she was alive is because she was on top of her brother who had died and she'd been abandoned. So I took care of her, fed her milk out of bottles and stuff like that. Well,
hmm
it did turn out that she had a permanent difficulty with her bowels, and she didn't have any control over those functions.
mm,
So the mother might have abandoned her because she knows she wasn't going to survive.
hmm
That's what
hmm
I thought. I found her on
That's a
Friday the
possibility. Yeah.
13th. Friday the 13th was her name.
Ah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, okay. Traumas. I think we pretty well know what I mean. There's psychological traumas. There's traumatic injuries. There's major traumas. Um, and there's birth traumas during the birth, during
Absolutely.
childbirth. That yeah, if it's a
mhm.
difficult birth, born with the cord wrapped around the neck. Yeah,
Sad.
I've never been particularly comfortable with tight collars and neckties.
Mm,
Um, so I'd try, I feel, well, so I got hung when I was, in a past life. Yeah, that happens. It's not a,
maybe,
it's not a
maybe.
phobia or it may have been that, little cord issue when I was born. I don't remember. Yeah, and the unfortunate thing, of course, is that by the time my brain got to the point where I was curious about these kind of things, it was too late to talk about them with my mother
Sure.
because her brain had gone someplace else,
Oh,
and there wasn't really any other. Um, she had
relative or
her
somebody close
youngest
enough.
sister was still alive, but they were off someplace in the distance. So
Well, I
yeah,
can't
so it's
tell you
it's interesting how some of these things.
how many charts I've seen with Uranus aspect in the ascendant where the child was born cesarean.
What
Hmm.
was that? What was that, Cornelia?
I found that many charts that I've gotten where I see that the Uranus squares the ascendant or Uranus is close to the ascendant. And I ask, were you born by cesarean? And it's always true.
Oh,
Huh.
I wasn't.
That's
Disruption. Yeah,
interesting.
it's called a disruption.
Yeah, there's always the exception. Yeah, it's nice
Yes.
to be exceptional. Okay,
Well, Jim, you're
moving.
exceptional anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So my primary references, I think one of the things you need to keep in mind when doing astrology in general, but even and more so perhaps, or as much so when looking into the prenatal aspect of things, is rulerships. So on the left, we have the partial page from Rex Bill's The Rulership Book, which is my go-to book for rulerships. And you can see there it's like childbirth, female childbearing organs, moon, childhood, early childhood environment, first house moon, children in general, and especially the first child, fifth house, sun, Leo, Venus, maybe Mercury, appearance and personality of fifth house, children, pleasures, and speculation of ninth house, death and legacies of children, 12th house, friends of third house, health and servants of 10th house, home, property, and end of life of eighth house, um, marriage and partner of 11th house. So these are in reference to the children.
Hmm.
Okay. On the other side, we have the Book of Rulerships by Dr. J. Lee Lehman. Um, and let's see, going down here, we have childhood. We see Mercury, childhood Aries, childhood Gemini, childhood Taurus, childless, Saturn in fifth house, children Jupiter, children Cancer, children fifth house, children 11th house. Um, and you can see how they're structured different. Um, and in Dr. Lehman's book, you got these other annotations after it. So there's a childhood Mercury AB 248, PT 443. What he did is she went through volumes of rulerships by other astrologers, some older books like uh, Lilly, some more contemporary, and tried to get a consensus of how they applied the rulership. So that's what those references are. And the thing there is it doesn't really give you any explanation as to uh, why you would say Mercury or Aries or Gemini or Taurus or yeah, any of those things. The only one that makes a little sense would be Saturn in the fifth house for a childless one. Though
Now
Hmm.
my first astrology,
my son has Saturn in the fifth house. He has one child.
my first astrology teacher had Jupiter in the fifth house. She had no children.
She had no children.
Okay. She ended up being caretaker for her father-in-law and then for her husband eventually. But yeah, but she
Hmm.
had no children. Um, so yeah, I mean, these are rules to which there are always exceptions. General rules. Where do you start? Um, but the thing here that kind of gets me going too is that if you look under children in the Rex Bill's book, the bottom one, marriage and partner of, says 11th house. Okay. You get to the 11th. This comes about because of what's called, don't tell me, I'll remember it, derivative houses or turning the wheel. Okay. First child is the fifth house. Yes. Okay, we're good, right? Your chart. You're represented by the first house. Your partner is represented by the seventh house, correct? That's the general look, how we look at the charts. Okay, so the marriage and partner of the first child or the fifth house is the child. The seventh house from the fifth house is the 11th house. That's why it's the partner of the child.
Hmm.
How many did I lose?
Yeah. Oh, I got you. I got you.
Okay.
Well, some of us know what you're talking about, but a lot of us might need a visual.
Yes. Yeah. So that's because you can actually take your chart and use it to look at your parents, grandparents, great grandparents, siblings, nieces, nephews, uncles, aunts. If you follow the rules of derivative houses by applying derivative houses, okay. Um, so
Well, I'll tell you
that's
what I'll tell you a story about how I got into astrology. When I was going through divorce, I went to this astrologer. Anyway, she was so good, I had her do my mother's chart.
Hmm.
And she said to me, uh, I said, well, I was the only child. And she said, no, your mother lost a set of twins. I said, what?
Whoa.
And I called my Aunt Elizabeth and I said, is this true? And she said, yes, it is.
Wow.
That was from her first husband that she didn't stay with.
mhm.
But I don't know how she came up with that, but that's what she came up with. I thought, well, that was the first
I
thing
guess she's
that
good. Unless,
decided astrology.
maybe she knew your mother.
No, she didn't know my mother.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
My mother died
So let's
when
see
I
where we're
was
at.
two
Okay.
years old. Okay.
Another table that you should have handy
Hmm.
uh, is Ptolemy's essential dignities of the planets.
How do you pronounce the name? Polo May?
Ptolemy.
Okay.
The P is silent. It's Ptolemy.
Ptolemy. Okay.
Or you can say Ptolemy if you like. I'm not. I know who you're talking about. It's kind of like I grew up with the sole German family. Well, not the only German family because my father's older sister and husband and family lived just north of us. So most of the people, farmers in our area, were Norwegian, and they had a lot of the silent letters, like Birkeland,
Hmm. Hmm.
BJK, that's like Bjorkland. No, yeah, the J is silent in there. Yeah, so they got a lot of silent letters. Well, what's it there for then?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, get rid of the darn thing. But the key thing here is rulerships, exaltation, detriment, and fall. And detriment and fall is when the planet is weaker. Obviously, rulership, exaltation, that's when they're stronger. Triplicities have strengthened the rulership, if as does the face and terms. That's where you get into terms like accidental dignity. So,
Hmm.
but it's just something that, yeah, you can pull it off the internet easy enough and just keep it handy.
Hmm.
So some rulerships. And I'm kind of offering you both takes on it. So in Rex Bill's book, Rex says accidents he assigns to Mars, Uranus, first house, Aries, and the third house. Dr. Lehman, just the first house. Anxieties, Saturn, Mercury, 12th house, just the 12th house. Phobias, they don't even mention phobias in either book.
Jim, are you
It's like
discussing this as natal chart or transits?
either or. Well, these would be either or. I mean, if you're looking, depending on what you're looking at. If you're looking at a transit and you're trying to see maybe somebody had an accident and you're looking to see what it might have been, there's a place that gives you an indication. Ah, Mars was transiting in their first house. Okay. Or if somebody is born with Mars in the first house, they may be more accident prone. But yeah, it's more of it's a general thing than Mars. It's like Mars rules accidents.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to see when somebody had an accident, where's Mars in their chart? What was the nature of the accident?
I just
Um,
had a child in preschool that had Mars opposite Uranus on the ascendant seventh house. He had his collar broken because he took his bicycle and tried to run it over some barrels like he saw somebody doing with their motorcycles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fractured his collarbone. It was a
yeah.
daredevil.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
Also, Jim,
hadn't reached 30 yet, had they?
No,
oh yeah. Hey, Jim, for Lee Lehman's column on the right, is it,
Uh-huh.
it says first house. Is it any planet in the first house, or are we referring to, for
It's
example,
it's the
Mars?
first house.
Oh, anything
It's
transiting the
not
first.
about a planet. It's not about any planets. It's just the first house.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. She listed no planets at all.
Well, that's why if you have Uranus in the first, quite often I found it was something at birth, a
Mhm.
disruption at the birth time.
Ah,
Uranus in the first, Cornelia?
mhm.
Uranus, but close to the ascendant. I've seen that with somebody who was adopted at birth. He had Uranus in the fourth house, cusp square as ascendant, and he was given away at birth.
Mm, mm.
Present. Um, okay, so psychological troubles. And here's like, okay, I saw that there was nothing there under Rex bills and I was going to fix it. And I thought I fixed it, but apparently I didn't. Um, Rex assigns psychological troubles to Mercury and to the sign Gemini. So
Mm.
it'd be like, okay, what house is Gemini in? What sign or house is Mercury in?
Can you say that
Um,
the Rex assigns what? He assigns
it's
what?
It's Saturn
it's
and
which
Mercury.
what sign is Mercury in? Would be one thing to look for. And the other would be what house is Gemini in?
And that's for what?
Psychological troubles.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. It should have been in there, but it's not there. Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Lehman doesn't talk about it. Neither references trauma specifically. Um,
Mm, mm.
um, the other thing to keep in mind are, the malefics. Mars and Saturn are the ancient malefics, Saturn the greater malefic, Mars the lesser malefic.
What's a malefic?
Afflicted malefic, cat. Oh,
What?
like Maleficent.
Okay.
Um, afflicted planets. There is a affliction is where a planet is receiving a bad or challenging aspect from one of the malefics, for example. And then depending upon the circumstances of the trauma,
Mm.
okay, you may find a specific rulership, such as, like drowning would be Neptune.
Hey,
So
Rita, just to
something,
answer your question on the malefics, male means bad in most Romance languages. And instead of trauma, which is a newer term, we would just see transits or placements of Mars or Saturn as negative acting planets.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Mhm. So
And the
when you have these,
benefics would be then Jupiter is the primary benefic and Venus is the lesser benefic.
say that one more time. I'm sorry. Who?
The benefics, like bene, like good acting planets,
Oh,
Jupiter is the greater benefic and Venus is the lesser benefic.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Here's a little bit
Yeah,
more
because
about
Disney
astrological.
does the whole what's Maleficent or something, the
Yes, yes,
evil
Maleficent.
queen, the evil
Yes.
yeah,
Evil Queen from what's that, Sleeping Beauty? Or yeah.
one of those, yes.
Yes. Affliction means that the planet is weakened, held back from functioning at its best. Afflicted planets in astrology are in a poor condition. In general, there are two ways a planet can be afflicted. If it receives a difficult aspect, such as a square or opposition from a malefic planet, Mars or Saturn, or if it is conjunct them. Some astrologers consider planets receiving negative aspects from the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, to be afflicted planets in astrology as well. If it is weakened in the zodiac sign where it is placed, such as in the sign of its fall or um,
Detriment.
detriment. Thank you. I know it was a D word, it just wasn't there anymore.
You got it.
It was a
And I would say
long, short
Uranus,
night, folks.
yeah, the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are absolutely true in terms of weather, meteorology, politics. They're seen as detrimental or malefic.
Yes, I mean, and the reality is every planet has a malefic side to it.
Mm.
Okay. And every planet has a benefic side to it.
Jim, can I point something out that's kind of bothering me about the whole malefic thing?
Yes.
Jan,
Uh-huh.
um, Mars and Saturn get all the flack for it, but I got to tell you, it looks to me like I look at the world and it seems like Venus is the big problem to me. The majority of problems in this world have to do with money. And and Venus is money. So I'm just going to throw it out there. She gets all the, oh, she's so wonderful. And it's like, really? Maybe she's not. So I'm just putting it
Yep.
out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's seen as,
Yeah.
during the rising star. She's seen as wealth, not just love and money, or
Mhm.
and also like as a rising star, a time of war. If you in ancient
Yeah.
astrology, it's
Well,
more complicated.
well,
Yeah.
and also just like Jupiter, it's considered so great. But when you think of people's health problems,
Yeah.
they have to do with too much of a good thing, too
Mhm.
much sugar, and they have to do with a lack of Mars and Saturn, which is like regiment and movement. So the whole malefic thing is like annoying to me. I just don't think it
Yeah,
applies the same
it's
way now. So just
yeah,
had to
it's
say it.
it's it's ancient, but yes,
Yeah.
and and Saturn can be thought of as malefic because you have to work harder.
Right? You have to
Ju-
put some effort
Mars,
into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Mars can be thought of as being malefic because you go off half cocked, or you just
Yeah.
act first and think later, and it's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Now should I? As you're limping along. Um,
So anyway.
Afflicted planets struggle to express their energy positively. Um, Keep in mind too that I certainly don't think of Jupiter as being particularly benefic when it's retrograde.
Mm.
Um, it certainly will diminish any potential rewards. Um, it can cause delays and the like. Um, Even Venus retrograde can cause issues, brings up issues. So, yes. So yeah, everything. There's two sides to everything in the universe except rainbows, and
Ah,
But Jan,
we
you know what
like
the thing
what.
about the malefic planets in medical astrology, there's something true about it. It's very
Yeah.
the traditional astrology
Well,
in medical.
it's all true and it's also maybe not. So I just kind of look
Well,
at studying what the actual
it's
effects are.
yes, it's all true, but it's also with an asterisk that says, but there are exceptions.
Absolutely. Just look at Venus, man. That's the problem, girl, from my
Yeah,
perspective. Yeah.
yeah.
I have Venus
Hmm.
on the ascendant, and my problem was always sugar.
Mm,
Mm.
mm, mm.
I could get addicted to sugar. I finally had to go on a total no sugar at all ever.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that
Well,
one.
Yeah.
okay, so here's rulerships, the parents. This is like, so they
Just
make
going back to
distinctions.
Venus for a second, somebody else was, you think about the feminine, it's like a feminine can walk into the room and then men lose it. You know what I mean? How much power the feminine has. So it has a whole negative effect too.
Yeah, well, think of how many women have stolen other women's husbands. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like endless.
Well, no.
Yeah. Anyway, I
Sorry,
Um,
agree.
go ahead.
mm,
I remember two couples that were neighbors and they exchanged spouses, which was very strange for them.
uh,
Sounds very
Shania Twain.
1970s. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
When you're thinking of a spousal exchange, think Shania Twain
Why? Why? What did she do?
because her husband left her for Shania's assistant, who was like her best friend.
Mm.
And Shania ended up marrying the best friend's husband.
Perfect.
So they swapped spouses. It's just like, why don't you just do it once in a while? Get together, do it once in a while. It would save a lot of legal trouble and costs. Oh, well. Um, yeah, and there was I ran across something that explained why. Yeah, and I don't know if you've experienced it or not, but sometimes, like you'll have a thought and you're sitting someplace and you have a thought and you go to the kitchen to get something, and by the time you get to the kitchen, it's like gone.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Sure.
there is actually a scientific basis for that. It's because that little thought's not quite set yet, and when you take off, you leave it back. It gets left in the dust,
Mm.
kind of thing.
Mm.
But if you go back to where you had the thought, you'll get it again. That's how it always worked for me. Okay,
Oh.
so parents. So the father of a child born at night would tend to be represented by Saturn or the 10th house.
Capricorn.
And okay, and the mother of a night birth would be the moon and fourth house. But a day
Mm.
birth would for the father would be the sun in the fourth house, and for the mother would be Venus in the 10th house. So they come on. Now, the father of a male, you look to the 10th house. For a mother, you look to the fourth house. For a female, for the father of a female, it's the fourth house. And for the mother of the female, it's the 10th house. So it's staying with that 410 dynamic, basically. But I mean, that's, again, a general rule. Parent-in-law, just like a mother or father-in-law, or a stepmother or father, of the same sex as the native, i.e., your, if you're a female, it would be your mother-in-law. If you're a male, it'd be your father-in-law. 10th house, and the opposite, the other step parent or in-law parent would be the 4th house. But now Rex also points out, and this is where Rex comes in, that uh, Lehman didn't go. So Lehman doesn't even talk about in-laws, step parents. In Rex Bill's book, he talks about parents with a greater inner influence would be 4th house. The parent with a greater outer influence would be the 10th house. Or the parent with the least influence, 4th house. And the parent with the greatest influence, 10th house. So now we go to children. General, 5th house, Sun, Leo. Layman, well, I wouldn't. Rex Bill also includes Venus and Mercury. This is all from Rex Bill's book, except unless there's an asterisk that tells you it's from Layman's. In a man's chart, because if we went through that, and Layman doesn't talk about it in the same from the same point of view. So in Rex Bill's book, in a man's chart, a child, first child, 5th house, second child, 7th house, third child, 9th house, fourth child, 11th house, fifth child, 1st house, sixth child, 3rd house. So it jumps a house. In the woman's chart, it goes 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, second. Stepchildren, 11th house. Children of siblings, 7th house. Grandchildren, general ruler is the 9th house, according to Rex Bills. Layman assigns it to Jupiter. So, yeah, 5th house is general, but when you start looking at more than one child, it depends on what you're doing. If they're asking you about a second child and you don't have a chart for the second child, you would go to their 7th house or their 6th house is what it's basically how you would look at it. Grandparents. Okay, so the grandfather of a male, a grandson, 7th house, a granddaughter, 1st house. Layman lists Saturn for grandfather art. Grandmother, Bill says male would be the 1st house, female would be 7th house, and Layman doesn't mention grandmothers. Rex talks about grandchildren being the 9th house. Layman talks about Jupiter. So just listen to Jupiter.
Leon Layman's always referencing traditional and historical ancient astrology. So oftentimes the matrilineal line is not recorded in European and Arabic history.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. This is now get to playtime, I guess. This is my natal chart. I think. No, actually, it's my. What am I doing here? Yeah, that's my natal chart. I'll give it a second look here, try to figure it out. Okay. Using my. Here's my pointer. Here we go. So this funny looking little ampersand, not ampersand. It's kind of like the percent sign, I guess. Yes. That little squiggle there, at any rate, that is the asteroid Astraea. I sometimes put Astraea in my chart because Astraea is the Greek goddess that, when she finally left Earth, was placed in the heavens as the constellation Virgo and Libra. She actually encompasses this constellations of Virgo and Libra. Her job was basically to judge mankind when she was on Earth. And she always, so she sat in judgment. She had the scales of justice in her little hand. Um, and she had, she just had a deep faith in humanity that we would, be okay, that we would turn out all right.
Hey, Jim,
But as man started
could you
getting more
circle that with
warlike,
your pointer, or are you talking about 9 degrees Scorpio?
yeah,
Okay,
nine
thank you.
Scorpio.
Thank you.
Talking about nine Scorpio. My one water point.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes.
You have all your planets within the nodes.
Yep.
Is that supposed to be significant?
Yep.
In what way?
Well, only in the only ones that really talk about it are more recent Vedic astrology. It's it's a Kala Amrita. There's two different versions of it because it depends on whether they're contained between the south node and the north node, or the north node and the south node.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, in my case, they're between the south and the north. Because what happens is that as the nodes transit, the south node will transit over all of my points before the north node gets to anybody. Well, except my asteroid down there at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But of the 10 planets, yeah. And so, it's like once I have a nodal opposition, that's a sign that everything's going to change. And now the north node is going to be going over everybody. So it's kind of like every 9 years, it's like, oh, tend to think more about the past. And then I start thinking more about the future. And then it's about the past. And then it's about, so that's it. Yeah. I've been trying to kind of figure out how all that plays out in my life and in the world. um, because, um, what I've read, haven't seen very much written about. They talk about nodal transits, but they'll talk about the transits through the houses or through the signs or a transit over a planet, but they don't talk about a what I would call a theme or a major theme, such as a scenario where um, one node, such as this, where one node transits everybody and then the other node transits everybody. They don't look at it from an aspect,
Yeah.
from a chart pattern perspective. Because what happens when the node, normally you got your planets kind of spread out and the nodes are somewhere in the mix. And as they go along, maybe the south node will transit a planet and then the north node will transit a planet. So you're going back and forth. Excuse me here. And that's kind of the natural flow of things for most people. But I mean, if you look at Donald Trump's chart, most of his planets are between the south node and the north node, but not all of them, because he's got a couple of points earlier in Gemini. So yeah, so he's got, it's similar but a little different. There's going to be that, and then away we go. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. It's something that from time to time gets more center focus in my brain, and I think more about it and look at it. In fact, Spencer and I talked about it a while back. And
About
what's
what? I
interesting
missed
is
about what?
about nodal transits, and specifically like with my chart, where the other thing that
No, I thought there was some definitive concept around the nodes. I mean, all
yes,
the planets, you're being born with all the planets within the nodes. Now, I'm not talking
yes,
about the transits, I'm just talking about the chart itself.
yes, the chart itself, yes, and I'm trying to remember in one basic Vedic is that one alignment is considered more positive than the other.
Okay,
Um,
I haven't heard
yeah.
that.
And I think mine is the negative because see, mine, the south node's going to transit everybody first. So they're contained between the south and the north.
Right.
Um, But it's also, you can look at it another way, as if the North has consumed them all and they're all contained. If you think of the
Mm.
North as being like the head, the mouth, where we bring stuff in,
Mhm.
all of this stuff has been contained. So I've got it all in me. And but then, of course, as it moves along, stuff gets eliminated through the natural process, and the first to go is the moon. Go figure that one out.
For those who
Um,
don't, for those who don't
yeah.
know, look.
Yes. Yeah. It's just very
Jim and
similar.
I are so close. We just have to just tilt it a little bit, and we're the same.
hmm Yeah. And Liz Green is much the same way.
Yes.
There's Kala
She's just 1 hour's
Sarpa
difference
and
from
Kala
me in New
Amrita, I think,
Jersey.
are the two different ones. And
I'm sorry,
I
what?
always Kala, Kala Sarpa, Sarpa, I think it is, and Kala Amrita, Amrit or Ita, are the two names in Vedic astrology. Um, and I haven't really encountered anything that talks about it from a Western
Hmm.
astrological perspective, but there may be. I just haven't seen
Talked
it.
about what? I missed something. I was,
The nodes contained. We're still talking about
oh,
the planets
oh,
contained within the nodes. I haven't
gotcha.
changed subject yet. Um,
I interrupted because I was like bragging that Jim says I'm his what cousin sister from a different mother or something.
yes, my twin sister from another mother. Actually, we're triplets when you bring in
Liz Green.
Liz Green. Yeah.
Cute.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the little
my analyst who's very much into astrology, when he first started to work with me, goes, "Why is your chart so familiar?" Because he's a Jungian, he's very familiar with Liz Green's chart.
ah, I'll do it. Okay, so down here at the bottom, sticking in
Yeah.
here at what is it, 5 or 6 areas, I guess. 5 areas. Uh,
Hmm.
Jim, that's the asteroid James.
Cool.
Um,
Hmm.
so something that I sometimes talk about when I talk about asteroids is look and see if there's an asteroid if you're named after an asteroid, or if an asteroid is named after you.
Oh,
Um, put it in your chart and see where it is and what happens to it.
oh.
Transits to it just might explain some things for you. Okay, my story. All right, so here's the thing with prenatal astrology. I my approach is you need to be thinking about your story, and then also your parents' story, and perhaps even your grandparents' stories. So this is simply a list of some significant dates from my life. Okay, December 5th, 1945, I'm conceived. September 3rd, I'm born. March 17th of 48, um, my second wife was born. Um, July 15th of 1948, my maternal great grandfather died.
Hmm.
September 7th, 1948, my first wife was born. Somewhere around December 24th of 1955, I believe it was, we got our first television. Didn't have to go down to Aunt Bean and Uncle George's to watch TV anymore. Uh, December 23rd, or October 23, 1962, my Uncle George, the one who lived on the farm just north of us, died. I had three Uncle Georges. That's why sometimes to be specific as to which Uncle George died. Um, and then on somewhere around July 10th of 1963 is when I really first, I think, discovered the sensation of love and what it feels like. March 13th of 64, my maternal grandfather died. Somewhere around April 28th of 64, shortly before graduation and the prom, major car accident, totaled my parents' car, ended up
Oh,
with a few stitches in the back of my head. Yeah, nothing
oh.
serious. My friend who was with me ended up with a broken jaw. We all appreciated that because he tended to joke too much. Um, Somewhere then around May 26th of 64, I graduated high school. August 30, I started college. Then somewhere in August of 67, I made a major transition going from a more of a hawk to a dove.
Hmm.
There was a realization that the concept of an officer and a gentleman didn't really apply. Um, And I
See you
realized
being,
that,
I can't see you being a hawk, but okay.
okay, well, at the time I was in the Advanced Air Force ROTC program, and
Mhm.
I was on course to become an Air Force officer and possibly a pilot. Um, that so the summer, July, August is when I went to a summer camp for that
Mm,
and had an experience with there. And it was actually just a discussion. The question was posed to all of us officer wannabes as to suppose that you're at the officers club and the base commander makes inappropriate comments and pass at your wife. What do you do?
mm,
Oh, you don't do anything. Of
mm,
course, he's the base commander, and that's like, no, that don't work for me. Sorry,
mhm.
drunk skunk. It's not like you can take him out behind the woodshed and have a discussion with him or something. So that kind of did that in. And then May 23rd, I think it was, I graduated college. July 15th of 68, I went into the Air Force. February 23rd of 69, I married my first wife. July 14th of 70, I got discharged. August 1st of 70, my father died.
Mm,
And September 14th of 70, I started working for the Department of Veterans Affairs. May 7th of 78, my first daughter was born. November 5th of 80, my second daughter was born. Then on January 17th of 1986, my nephew died, my older middle brother's son, the only Schultz boy in the family lineage, died. Uh, Testicular cancer, the bad kind. Um, August 23rd, 86, that's when I had my brief affair. Um, and then June 16th of 87, I met my second wife again because we'd known each other basically our whole lives. September 3rd, 1987, my divorce was finalized. And then October 10th of 87, married my second wife. August 6th of 2006 is when Spencer and I took over the meetup group.
mm.
And then December 31st of 2010 is when I retired. So those are like events, life events.
Major life events. Yeah.
Yeah. You start thinking, because when you think of those and then you have a perspective and you start going back and say, well, if you want to look at them, what was going on astrologically.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my conception chart
Mm,
for December 5th of 1945. Notice that it gives the ascendant of 13 degrees 12 Sagittarius, which was my natal moon. And in this case, the moon is at 22 Sag 10, about, not quite 5 degrees from my natal ascendant. So that's where that Bailey conception chart of go back 10, count back 10 lunations and then swap the moon and the ascendant play out.
Jim, can I ask about that? Just for clarification, because I'm
Mhm.
trying to
Sure.
run my own here. You
Yeah.
put your sun on the ascendant, your natal sun. I'm
No.
sorry. What did you do here? Tell me what you did to get this time.
Okay. You go back 10 lunations
Yeah.
and then you find a date where the degree of your moon is the ascendant
My natal
and
moon
where
is the ascendant degree. Okay.
yes,
All right.
and but then you have to pick a date, and so then you pick the date where um, not only is the degree of your natal moon your ascendant, but the moon is also close to your natal ascendant.
All right. So the moon of that time is close to my natal ascendant. Okay. All
Yes.
right.
Mhm.
All right.
Do you have solar fire?
I not now. No.
Oh, okay.
So the
Okay.
the moon of the event, the quote unquote conception is, say it again. The moon of the event is my natal
Near
sun. Is that what you said?
no, no, no. Sun has nothing to do with it.
Okay. Say it
Okay.
again.
It just so happens that in my case, my conception chart has the sun on the ascendant. Just happens that way.
Okay.
And it just happens that it's basically uh, squaring. It's almost on my natal moon and also squaring itself. So no, what you want to do is the first key is that the degree of your natal moon is your ascendant.
Okay.
All right.
On the conception
Then,
chart. Okay. And the
okay,
next one is?
the second part then is find a date and time of that day when, well, it's actually just find the date where the moon then is close to the degree of your natal ascendant.
Okay.
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 Okay. Because the having your having your conception ascendant being the degree of your natal moon basically will determine the time of day,
Okay. All right.
which of course
Something to
will
play
vary
with
depending
here.
on the day. Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what did I do next? Okay. Now here's my prenatal story from an astrological perspective. Um, so at conception, I had 5 planets retrograde and no planets in Earth signs. Now, refresh your memory. Natally, I have no planets retrograde and no planets in water signs, but I have 2 Earth planets. So I find it interesting that I was conceived with water planets, but no Earth planets, and born with Earth planets, but no water planets.
Water plants. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and with retrogrades, but no retrogrades. Just
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, also noted was that that night the moon went out of bounds south. So all my planets were in bounds when I was conceived, but shortly thereafter, the moon went out of bounds south. It's just a matter of something I find fascinating is out of bound planets are interesting.
Yeah.
On December 7th, 2 days later, um, one of the planets that was retrograde when I was conceived was Mercury. And it was 2 days after conception that the retrograde Mercury was conjunct the sun, the inferior conjunction sun at and that's wrong. It's not 14, can't be 14 Virgo. It has to be 14 Sagittarius. Sorry. I have to fix that. Okay. December 17th, Mercury stationed direct at 18 Sag 37, which was like a degree from my natal ascendant. Just by chance. Okay. The first eclipse that comes up is December 19th. It's a total lunar eclipse, 26 Gemini 50, which places it in my natal 7th house, conjunct Uranus, kind of a wide 5 degrees off. Then the subsequent new moon, January 3rd of 46, was a partial solar eclipse. It was from Solar Series 150 or 1 South. It was at 12 Capricorn 33. 12 Capricorn squares my midheaven ICMC line, trines my sun, and is not far from squaring Mars. January 10th, Neptune stationed retrograde. This is all during my fetal development. And so actually it's my embryo, the embryonic stage.
Mhm.
On January 20th, retrograde Mars was conjunct retrograde Saturn at 20 Cancer 46. I just thought that was kind of an interesting conjunction. February 1st, Venus Sun superior conjunction, 12 Aquarius 8. That's when Venus is direct because and then February 10th, Mercury superior conjunction Sun at 21 Aquarius 46 and Jupiter stationed retrograde.
Jim, do you want to chime in with any kind of anything happening simultaneously in your family, parents, culture, community, or nationally at that time?
I would if I knew of anything, but I don't know of anything.
Oh, okay.
There's that story comes out a little bit. Well, I'll get to that. Kind of get to that story in a little bit. Then let's see, May 30th, 46, there was a partial solar eclipse, Ceres 117 or 2 Old North at 8 Gemini 49. Then on June 14th, there was a total lunar eclipse at 23 Sagittarius 5. So that happened to be 2 days before my mother's birthday.
Hmm. Mhm.
Um, February 1st, 46, that was 3 days before my father's birthday, the Venus Sun conjunction. And then June 29th, there's another partial solar eclipse. And this is from Sirius Series 155 or 2 New North.
Now, like what I can just add in general is what is Jim's talking about for those. This is what's happening after World War II. This is all
Yes.
the healing and the changes right after World War II, because we are the baby boomers. We're the first, our fathers saved up that sperm and came back from the war. And so you can imagine the energy of the country of
Mhm.
rebuilding and all the wounds that there were, but all the wealth. I mean, all the changes that were going
Mhm.
on in our country at the time.
Yep. My father didn't go to war. My father was a older farmer, and so he got to stay home and farm.
Hmm.
uh, and then the last note is just something um, a little over 2 months after I was, let's see, about 80 days after I was born, 81, 30, no, let's see, 27, 58,
What you're
yeah,
looking
around 80. November 23rd, there was a partial solar
at.
eclipse,
Hmm.
Saros 122 to south at 0 Sagittarius 50. So that means by progression, I've either just had it or I have a progressed solar eclipse coming up.
Hmm.
So do you, Rita?
Yeah. What does that mean?
I don't know. Haven't had one yet.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch again. Keep
Yeah.
touch bases. I mean, I know for me, which is maybe not interesting, but I know that I was on Long Island and all the changes on Long Island, all the farms were being turned over, all the houses were being built at this time. I
Yeah.
mean, little village of Farmingdale had 5,000 people in it. By the time I hit high school, the high school had 4,000 people in it. So you can just imagine all the changes that are going on. I don't know what's happening. You're growing up where in the Midwest, Minnesota?
In eastern South Dakota,
I
northern
was
Great
just,
Plains.
okay, okay,
We're
okay.
technically not called the Midwest, even though we sometimes
Right.
are thought
No,
of as
no,
Midwest.
no. Yeah.
I find it interesting that the Midwest is Iowa, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. That's not
Mhm.
Midwest, folks. That's East,
No.
from my perspective. Okay.
So I'm
So,
definitely as east as you can get.
yeah. All right. So here's
Hmm.
a chart I just threw
Wow.
at you. This is my, yeah, isn't that crazy? This is my
How do you
family
read
chart.
that?
Well, you don't really read it so much as you just kind of look at it. Okay. Um, this is my family chart. What I did was I went through and I put in all of the named asteroids that relate to my family members.
Hmm.
Plus, I also include my prenatal eclipses, of which there are five, two lunar, three solar.
Prenatal eclipses. Hmm.
Wait a minute, one, two, three, four, five, six. Oh no, there's six of them. How many was six? I don't know. Maybe they're the same. All right. At any rate, there's six of them. Um, so there's my mother's name is Gladys, and there's an asteroid named Gladys.
Hmm.
And let's see if I can find her in this mixture. Gladys is over here at 10 Sagittarius in my 12th house, conjunct my black moon at 12 and my natal moon at 13. Now, does that connect my mother with my moon? Duh. Then we have, yeah, there's me, James. Notice even with all of this stuff, here's little Jimmy down here by himself.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so then my first daughter is Amanda. There's an asteroid Amanda, and Amanda is up here conjunct my midheaven at 10 Libra 51 between Neptune and Mars. And then my second daughter was Katie or Kate. She was named after her maternal great grandmother.
Hmm.
So this one she kind of fills in both spots. So Kate showing up. Oh, where's Katie girl here? So Kate is over here at 27 Libra 26 conjunct my Venus. That's pretty cool. Yeah. We've always been super close.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And then my first wife's name was Linda. And that was one of the things about Jim Shear when I was studying with him that I found interesting because his ex-wife's name was also Linda.
Hmm.
And he had a daughter born on May 7th, the same date that my older daughter was born, though they were a year apart. And we have, matching ascendants and all that other fun stuff. So, okay, so then where were we? Oh, Linda. Linda, where are you, Linda?
Like the seventh.
Linda.
Is Jim share
Shit.
about born about the time you were too? Is it about
He was 2 years after us.
not bad though? Not
Yeah. So here's Linda over here at 3 Cancer 24. And then we have Susie for my current wife, Susan. Susie is Susie's over here at 2 Capricorn 59. Uh,
hmm.
between my the January 3rd solar eclipse and my second lunar eclipse, the whatever one that was. And then let's see, let's see then what else do we have? Well, there's an Emma. Emma was my maternal grandmother, the one grandparent that I did know, and I really liked her, even though she was almost totally deaf.
Hmm.
She made great crabapple jelly, and I would help her sometimes.
Oh.
And she'd bake bread, and you could just have that fresh jelly on bread. It's like, oh, Yum City. So where's Emma? Emma. Yeah, she's kind of hard to
Good job
find.
right there.
Oh, here she is. Emma's over here at 14 Cancer 50. Find out where my mouse is. Over here. Here's Emma, 14 Cancer 55.
Hmm.
So it's nice that I got, a lot of cancer points or some cancer points or some water points at least. And then let's
Hmm.
see. There was Florence. Florence is mother's one of my mother's younger sisters. She's the second born in the family. Aunt Toppy. She was a hoot. Flo, where's Flo? Flo. Flo is up there at 1 Scorpio. You know, here's Florence. Next to Florence is Vivian, another aunt at 2 Scorpio 22. Maybe it'd be easier just to go around. Susie. Here's Ellie, 24 Capricorn 6. As it happened, I had an aunt Eleanor, and then Susan's mother happens to be named Eleanor as well, but they spelled it differently. And her mother went by Ellie. They were both known as Ellie. And then there's a George for my three uncles, George. George is up here at 12. No, at
So
9 Virgo
everybody's
12.
almost all the family is clustered up on the top there.
Yes, how about that?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I did. Now there isn't my father's name was Fred, but there's no Fred. There is a asteroid named Frederick, but he wasn't named Frederick because his oldest brother was Frederick. But
Hmm.
Frederick died the year before my father was born. So they just kind of used the name over, but not the same name. I guess they shortened it for some reason.
Hmm.
Because he was one of
Your
two.
father's brother died before he was born?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, my father's parents came from good German stock and had a lot of children, had a lot of babies, several of whom didn't survive. But that's my father's story, and we'll get to that. Um, okay, so now, this chart is set for an arbitrary date that I picked that would have been around the time that my maternal grandmother, Emma, was near the end of her second trimester with my mother, Gladys.
Huh.
Okay. So from my theoretical standpoint, that means that Mama Gladys has got all of her eggs and then some, and one of those little booger, one of those little oocytes in there is going to become me. And it's kind of like, okay, there for study. Let's see what we have. Well, there's a lot of Pisces. We have suns at where do we, let's start at the first house and just work our way around. Mars at 12, Sag 20. I think I got a bi-wheel of this. Here's the sun at 14 no, 7 Pisces. Saturn at 16. Australia 23, Mercury 24, Moon's over here at 22, Leo. So we got, yes, here it is. Here's the bi-wheel. Okay, so the inner wheel is when my theoretical existence begins. Since I don't know the exact date that the oocyte that was formed that would become me, I do know that by this point it's there. And with my natal wheel on the outside. So it's kind of like, okay, let's see what lines up. Well, we've got my north node is on the black moon of that chart. I'm not sure what to call it. It's not because it's not the conception. Um, and we have Uranus at 21 Gemini conjunct Pluto of that chart. Over here, we've got Saturn at 3 Leo conjunct the north node of that chart at 2 Leo. Down here, we've got my black moon at 12 Sagittarius conjunct the Mars of that chart at 12 Sagittarius. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. The sun at 7 Pisces is basically opposing my sun at 10 Virgo. Saturn at 16 Pisces is also in that opposition range as my sun falls in the range of the midpoint of those 2 points. Anybody spotting any other fun, interesting facts here? Let's see. Oh, Chiron at 14 Aquarius trines my Mars at 16 Libra. What else does 12 Sag do? Well, 12 Sag squares my sun at 10 Virgo. Here's 22 Leo, the moon sextiles my natal Chiron at 20 Libra. It's a little wide for a sextile to Mars. Let's see, the node at 2 is, let's see. That's too far to sextile to Neptune at 7. Let's see what else have we got. Let's see. Oh, well, let's see here. What did I say there? Well, the sun at 7 Pisces is quincunx my natal Neptune at 7 Libra. So you start to see if you look to see if there's connections. Okay, if you've created a chart that doesn't seem to connect, then my suggestion would be, well, you set it aside until there's a reason to come back to it. Now, what the one issue with using the Bailey conception chart method, where you go back 10 lunations and swap positions of the moon and the natal moon and ascendant, is that it doesn't really allow for somebody who's born prematurely. Now, when Solar Fire creates a chart for that, it creates a potential, and it gives you several options. There's a couple of that are close to that exact dates, and there may be one or two that are maybe like plus 10 days or minus 20 days or something like that. So it does give you kind of a range to look at. So, for example, if you know that you were born prematurely, for example, you might only want to go back 9 lunations, depending on how premature you were or the person was. So you have to make some mental adjustments for those kind of scenarios. Now, yeah, here's my mother's story. So her conception chart gives her a date of conception of September 12th, 9 days from my birthday. Born June 16th. She has the first sister born on August 18th of 1910. August 7th of 1913, her paternal grandfather died. March 2nd of 15, her sister is born. And then on December 22nd of 1918, another sister is born. Now, what's interesting here in looking at it from a genealogical perspective, okay, we're going back to a time when birth control really wasn't a thing. I guess if the woman didn't want to get pregnant, it's like if they didn't want to have any more kids, it was kind of like an abstain, because there really wasn't any good, as far as I know, good birth control methods at the time. But so when you see
in use at the time,
yeah,
what did you say, Katrina?
There was definitely herbal medicine.
Yeah,
at the time, women knew what to use.
Yeah, and there was some terrible methods too. Well, women could die using, yeah.
Yes. So the fact that there's basically 5 years between my mother and her, no, there's 3 years between my mother and her first sister, suggests there's a possibility. When you see 3 years, you start to see 3, 4, 5 year difference between in the order of siblings. From that time frame, you start to think, okay, did she lose a baby?
Yeah.
Okay. Certainly between sister number, her sister Florence, born 1910, and Mildred, born in 1915. That's 4.5 years. I'm knowing my paternal grandfather, Myrtle, OVC, being kind of, yeah, he was. There's highly unlikely that grandma didn't get pregnant sometime in there and lose a baby or two. And by story, yes, she did have, she had 6 surviving children and 3 or 4 apparently pregnancies that didn't run full term. Though I don't have any specifics on those. It was the kind of thing that it didn't interest me when I was when they were there and young enough that when I could have talked to them and found out this information to try to create a long family history. So then let's see here, where are we going? 18, okay. February 23rd, 1921, her sister Vivian is born.
Around the same time, my mother was one of 13 and 3 died.
Yeah.
It was like one after the other back then.
Yeah, it's what happens. Interestingly enough, my first wife and I got married on February 23rd.
I have to say goodbye. I have an appointment to see somebody at the hospital.
Oh, take care, Cornelia. Thanks for joining.
Okay. See you
Good wishes to the person in the hospital.
So the next
cookies. All right, talk to you later.
Okay. So next significant date for my mother was she graduated high school from May of 25. I don't know the date. I'd have to find her. I think I've got her little certificate that might have a date on it. But anyway, she graduated. She apparently received a small scholarship, she told me about. But because of the family situation, even though the college was like 4 miles away, she wasn't able to go to it. She wasn't because, Grandpa was, I think at the time, yes, at that time they lived in a little town called Bruce, and he ran owned the liquor store and pool hall. And he was primarily Irish, and so he was a bit frugal, to say the least. Yeah. And that bothered her a lot. She really wanted to go to college, but she wasn't able to. And that
Oh, I bet that
she
really
told me about that.
bothered her. Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Yeah. So then a year later, just over a year later, August 12th of 1926, she marries her first husband.
Hmm.
Then on September 14th of 1927, her brother is born, the last of the Skaggs children. Let's see, September 27, Virgil is in his 50s and Emma is 40, almost 44. So yeah, last kid.
She had her husband
Um,
killed by lightning?
yes.
Oh, dear.
Uh-huh. So then let's see, next date we go from the brother.
I would say that there
Valentine's Day
might be a
1930.
little trauma there. Hmm.
Yes. So Valentine's Day 1937, her maternal grandmother dies. And she was relatively close to her parents because they were farming in not, 30, maybe 20 or 30 miles south of where my mother was with her first husband. But then May 12th of 1942, her first husband is in the field working and is struck and killed by lightning. He's discovered when a neighbor happens to be passing by and sees the tractor moving erratically out in the field. Now, at this time, my mother's about 7.5 months pregnant. She's already lost at least two prior pregnancies. One, I think, was a shorter term, and one was stillborn, I think, or died right after birth because he's in a special section of the cemetery back home where it's for those fetuses that were pretty much fully developed but didn't survive. And it just lists baby boy Hendrix on his little marker. And there's several of them there. So then her son is, my oldest brother, half brother, is born July 4th of 1942. December 12th of 43, she marries my father. And they had known each other because he was working as a farm hand, so they knew each other. October 5th of 1944, a decent waiting period. My older brother Chuck is born. And I would imagine that because of, she's married to a farmer again. They're farming. And with the circumstances of what happened to her first husband, that as she's getting close to her due date, there's probably some concern with her now husband, this, Chuck's father, working out in the field and that part of the country known for sudden violent thunderstorms, even in the summertime.
Right, right.
So there's probably some anxiety going on there. And then about 23 months later, I come along September 3rd of 46, and I'm sure that she probably went through some more of that same kind of trauma, of concern, the fear of potential.
I like the way you just put son is born instead of putting your own name there.
It's my mother's story, not my story.
Okay. I'll remember that when I analyze you.
Yeah, it's easy to depersonalize things. Well, it's easy for me. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
To externally depersonalize things. Put it that way. So then let's see, July 15th of 1948, her maternal grandfather died. And he was in his 90s. January 16th, 1952, her half sister died. And there is the big question mark. I don't know. And I seriously doubt that she even knew she had a half sister, or for that matter, a half brother. Because she probably didn't know that her father had been married twice before he married her mother. Virgil was 21 and his first wife was 12.
His first wife was 12 years old?
Yeah, they're from Kentucky. That's okay. Her daddy signed the consent form.
Well, then it's actually okay. Oh my goodness. What were you guys doing out there in the Midwest?
Yeah. yeah, um, such it was. Um, so then let's see. Uh, the rest of, it's like one, and it was in 52 then that I started school. And she started, September, I started school and she started working in town shortly after that. Um, but it was fine. Dad was home farming. I had two older brothers, didn't have to worry about it. I was
Mm,
six, we were six,
mm.
8, and 10. School was, a long ways off. It was like a short walk across the road, probably half a city block. No, not even that.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Then, so the next big event was in March of 64 when her father died. He was 91, I think he just turned. Then, uh, March 30, 1966, grandson is born, my older brother Chuck's firstborn. Uh, then, April 22nd, 1970, we have a granddaughter from my oldest brother Herman. He and his wife had a girl. And that made my dad real happy because now he's got a girl in the family. Because you see, when they tried for me, they were trying to have a girl. And Mom said, "This is the last time, Fred. The last one. Make it count." But unfortunately, Fred didn't have strong X sperm. Um, so I came along. So I wasn't a girl. That's the way it was. But so now my dad's happy because there's a granddaughter. We got a girl in the family, other than daughter-in-laws.
You
And
said,
then August 1st, he dies of that year,
mm,
1970. And then shortly after that, October 30th, we have another granddaughter's born. July 16th, another granddaughter is born. Then April 14th of 74, her sister Mildred dies, thanks to her ne'er-do-well, worthless piece of her husband. She was having gallbladder issues, and rather than taking her to the nearest hospital, he decided to drive a little farther. Um, let's see, where are we now? Okay, then April 27th, 77, her mother dies. May 7th, granddaughter born. That would be my firstborn. And then November 5th, another granddaughter. Uh, August 14th of 81, her sister Florence dies. September 14th of 85, another granddaughter, the last of the grandchildren, is born. Um, and then on June 17th, 1986, the day after her would be, let's see, I guess it'd be her 79th birthday,
oh,
her grandson dies.
oh,
Hmm.
oh,
Um, then on March 6th of 91, she has a great granddaughter. My older brother Chuck had a son and a daughter, and this was the daughter creating great grandchildren, great grand, yeah. And then May 2nd of 94, another great granddaughter. May 27th of 98, a great grandson. And then January, well, actually, before he was born, she died.
mm,
To double check on that year of 98 that he was born.
oh.
It might have been 96. I think it was 96. I missed typo. Oh well. So I mean you can see that she had went through a lot of trauma. Um, her mother lost her hearing when she was late teens, I think. Apparently got sick. I don't know if it was rheumatic fever or something of that nature. But anyway, she lost most of her hearing. Um, and her mother was 21 when she married her father, who was 32 at the time. Yeah. So there's like a 10, 11-year age difference. Um, they were both born, actually, it was interesting because they were both born in January. He was a Capricorn, though, and she was an Aquarius. And so as I'm doing this and I'm looking at it, I'm seeing like there seems to be a proliferation of certain date frames, a lot of stuff happening in August,
Mm.
a lot of stuff happening, it's like it I should probably sequence the dates or just take a look at it and see if there's some preponderance of dates one way or the other. It just looks interesting. Um, but that's my way of looking at things. So here's her natal chart. Her birth time was rectified. The birth certificate doesn't list a birth time. Um, not not in some ways not that dissimilar to mine in that most of the planets are between the nodes, but in her case, the north and south node, with just Mars, Uranus, and the moon outside of them. But Mars is real close to that south node. Um, Mars in the seventh house. First husband dies from a violent accident. One could make that stick, right? Capricorn, cardinal Earth. He was a farmer.
Mm.
And
Second
also
husband, also a farmer.
the lightning strike or the Uranus at the descendant.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. And her first husband was, my mother's first husband was, I think, 9 years older than her. Yeah.
Mm.
Who was it that was the hit by lightning?
Yes. First husband.
Her first husband, so her first partner. And so Uranus is
Yeah.
the planet that's
Yes, my oldest brother's father. Yeah.
And
He was
also
a world.
the South Node, which is the
Yeah.
sting and the tail, the end of the story.
hmm Yeah.
And
And
Capricorn is ruled by
yeah.
Saturn,
What was only good part about it, even if there was a good part to it, was the fact that he was a World War I veteran. And so, she got benefits. There was
They
there
got
was life
benefits.
insurance,
Yeah.
and then there was benefits for my oldest brother.
Mm.
And she just, she bought savings bonds, and she just took that little $25 savings bond and tucked them away for Herman for when he grew up and needed him. But with the insurance that she got, the life insurance she got, and I guess whatever other proceeds from the sale involving the farm, she bought a house in town, Brookings. And then when she married my father and they moved out to the farm, her parents then moved from Bruce into Brookings and then lived in that house. And so that's the house that, I knew my grandparents in.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got going on here? Saturn, 0 Pisces. 0 degrees are always interesting. We have Chiron trining Pluto, opposing, it's a white opposition to the moon, and in conjunct, looks like Mercury, black moon, no, Mercury, Jupiter.
You want to highlight that with your cursor, Jim?
Yeah, let's see. Here's Chiron at 17. You got the little green line coming over here. It looks like it's primarily focusing on Jupiter and Mercury conjunction at 16 Cancer.
Mm.
So, and Chiron, it deals with issues of abandonment. And certainly,
Moon
she would,
motherhood.
there probably was an element of abandonment by her first husband. Maybe the fool shouldn't have been stayed out in the field so long, trying to get that last row plowed or cultivated or whatever he was doing out there.
Well, more directly with Chiron opposing the moon, or moon coming to oppose Chiron, wounds around mothering, motherhood, women, being a wife.
Yeah.
In and also in the moon in the sign of Leo, which is it in detriment, or it's a very unfertile.
Yeah, it's not a detriment, but it's not it doesn't gain any power there.
And fall, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Another interesting little anecdote about my mother, and you've probably heard this one before, some of you, um, was that the pregnancy, she lost the baby that was born, stillborn, I guess. Um, while she was in the hospital, it was, she was sharing a room with another woman who had just had a baby, but the other woman couldn't produce milk. And so my mother served as the wet nurse for that woman's
Oh, how
baby.
interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
And of course, they remained friends for
I bet.
forever after.
I bet.
Yeah.
I've heard of those stories. It's really
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. But my mother, let's see here. Well, she's born with Mars, Uranus, retrograde, Chiron's retrograde. She's also born with Mercury and Mars out of bounds. Mercury out of bounds north, Mars out of bounds south. Who else is out of the neighborhood here? I guess it looks like it. It's up here. We see this. Here's Mercury. There we go. Plus 24. Mars minus 26. Retrograde, retrograde, retrograde. So not only is Mars in the seventh house, um, it's retrograde, moving back toward the descendant, towards Uranus. And it's really, let's see, not quite seven, not quite five. It's almost on the midpoint of Uranus' south node. So,
so where would you see something like her disappointment in not being able to take her scholarship? Where would that come up on the chart?
uh, well, we have, let's see,
Oh,
that would
Saturn
be a
in the
ninth house issue. And we have Aquarius on the ninth house.
Hmm.
We have retrograde Uranus and Capricorn in the sixth house.
I would think Saturn in the 10th house at the midheaven, Saturn, a sign of dryness
Yeah, and
and
Saturn's at
limitation.
zero.
Yeah, and limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mother would
Right.
be about the same age, and she went to secretarial school, and she was like so proud that she got to go to secretarial school, you know.
Yeah.
It was a thing back then about that time. Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Her disappointment must have been very, very heavy for her,
you
and
think about
felt
it.
by the children and
Mhm.
felt by you in a way.
Well, at that time, when our mothers became of college age, college wasn't a
No,
normal
no, it
thing for
wasn't.
girls to do unless they were going to become a teacher. But at that time, you didn't even, in a lot of places, I know where I was born and raised, they didn't need a degree to teach.
Mm,
If a girl was a high school graduate, she could
mhm,
teach
mm,
grade school
mm.
in the little country schools. You still had, country schools all over the place.
Jim,
The
was
little house on the prairie, one room schoolhouses like I went to.
who was it that prevented her again from taking the scholarship?
Her father.
Thank you. Okay, so Saturn also squares the sun here. So
Yeah.
sun
Mm,
is one's
mm,
ego, one's personal development and pride and power. In
sure.
Gemini, that's a sign of education and learning. In
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
12th house, conjunct Pluto, so behind closed doors, imprisoned, and squared by Saturn. So you can see that whole story acting out.
Yeah.
So that grief of her, that loss of her is passed on to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, unconsciously or whatever, it's passed on to
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I know my mother, she lived in Queens and she went into New York City and just was so proud of the fact that she could work for a newspaper and she could do these things because she had that training, just to be a secretary, just to have that training.
Well, also,
Okay. So here's my
did
father's
you and your
story.
father also, or you and your siblings, Jim, also go to college then?
Um, I did, and my oldest brother did, but my middle brother Chuck did not.
Okay, so at least one person, one child from her
Hmm.
went to
Yeah.
university.
And that was
What,
the
what I,
thing for your mother must have been so proud that you could go to university.
hmm So, yeah.
Because I know my parents were like, wow, you're going to university, you're going to school. It was like the
Yeah.
thing in the
The,
early
the,
60s, mid
Now, the
60s.
other thing that I find interesting about my brothers and I is that we're born on the third, fourth, and fifth of the month.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, my oldest brother's born on the fourth, the middle brother on the fifth, and I'm born on the third.
Huh.
Different months, but that's cool. Different years, but that's cool.
Same month?
No,
No,
July,
because
October, and September.
oh, with the dates. Mm,
Yeah, so here's my father's story.
mm.
1892, his brother Frederick is born. He hasn't even been born yet. Okay. 1894, sister Katie is born. 1896, brother John is born. 1899, sister Bina is born. 1902, brother Evert is born. 1903, brothers Frederick and Evert die. 1904, my father's born. I named him Fred after Frederick. Now, Frederick was the maternal grandfather. 1905, his brother Evert is born. Oh, got another Evert.
Yeah.
Evert's also a family name. 1906, brother Henry's born. Notice what's happening here. We're not skipping any years, are we? Not
No,
too
they're one
many.
after another.
Yeah, 1907, brother Engelke is born and dies.
This
Like,
poor mother has no time to recuperate.
yeah, he was, and he was a junior. Would have been a junior if he'd survived. 1908, brother Edward's born. 1909, sister Angel is born.
Oh my God.
1911, sister Gertie is born and then
Jeez.
dies.
Oh.
In 1915, sister Angel, what the heck did, oh, yes, sister Angel and mother died. So his mother died in 1915 in childbirth to another girl
Oh,
that they were naming
wow.
Angel.
Oh, yeah, that's
Okay,
common.
so my father now is 7.5 years old, and he loses his mother, and he's already, he was uh, had one brother die when he was 3, so probably not much memory of that. Hmm. But then the next year, 1916, his brother Evert dies. And Evert, I believe, that's the one that was born in 1905. So Evert was about 11. And I believe that's the one, as I recall, the story was um, they grew up in a little town called Little Rock, Iowa, which was smaller than Bruce, South Dakota, which is pretty hard to do because Bruce was maybe 300 people. And I think of Little Rock as smaller. Well, no, maybe Little Rock's a little bigger, about the same. But at any rate, one of the pastimes then for boys was boxing.
Hmm.
And apparently Ebert suffered some kind of an injury play boxing or boxing that resulted in his death.
Wow.
1927, so my father only went to the 8th grade, and then he set about
That
working.
was very common back then.
Yeah, it was not unusual for
No, my
young boys
father
that age.
too, I don't think finished high school or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So 1927, his father remarries and brings in a stepmother and some step siblings. Then in 1933, his sister Katie dies. 1939, his father dies. 1942, he marries my mother and gets a stepson. 1944, brother Charles is born. 46, I am born. 62, he loses his brother-in-law, George, married to his sister Bina. George died from cancer. George was also a World War I veteran. He had noticed something on his one leg, I guess. I wasn't sure what it was. So he went down to the VA hospital in Sioux Falls, about 60 miles away. Turned out to be cancer, and George died in hospital.
Mm.
So now I only have 2 uncles Georges left. Then 1964, his father-in-law dies. In 1970, uh, his granddaughter is born, and then not even 4 months later, he dies.
Wow.
Yeah, cancer.
Hmm.
He had had symptoms, and he was kind of he. I had been hiding it from my mother, and it was probably around the time that uh, Tina, the granddaughter, was born, that my mom finally got him to go to a doctor, and they got the bad news. Um, so we had we had running water in the kitchen when I was born, but we didn't have an indoor bathroom until probably 6, 7 years later, sometime later. I don't remember exactly when. Um, but we had the outhouse, and the outhouse was just a short walk from the front door, which was certainly cold in the wintertime. And so my father tended to use the outhouse. And so what my mother ended up doing was getting a flashlight when he wasn't looking and going out to the outhouse and looking in there to see what was going on down there. And what she saw in there was enough to alarm her to get him to drag his ass to the doctor finally. And that's when he was diagnosed with, cancer that had metastasized. So.
Your father died in 1970.
Yes. Now, another upside to the whole story with my first wife was a licensed practical nurse, an LPN. So she was a nurse. So, and we got married while I was still in the Air Force. And once I got out of the Air Force, ended up staying with my parents for the time being because my father was, they had the farm sale like about the time I got out. He died like 2 weeks after I got out. But we were living with him because then she, as a nurse, could help take care of him because my mother was still working.
Sure.
But unfortunately, for my mother, which was another traumatic thing that I didn't list on her thing, was 1972 when she turned 65, she had to retire. It was the law then. She had been working at F.W. Woolworth for 15 years or so.
She had to retire, did you say?
Yeah, because there was an age limit. There was there were things, age limits were a thing then. Not everybody had to retire at 65. Some were 70. Government retirement age was 70 when I started working. And I remember that it was one of those happy, again, fortunate things that one of the people that, let's see, at the time I was the assistant division chief in Baltimore, Maryland, and one of the people that worked in the division, who was kind of a nuisance, turned 70 before the end of the year and had to retire. Because at the end of the year, the law was revoked. They did away with the mandatory retirement age. But, well, got rid of him just in time.
Didn't the mandatory retirement have to do with making jobs for the vets coming home?
It had to do with, with veterans and with other people, for young people. Because keep in mind, there was we had the baby boomers, there was millions of us.
Yeah, baby boomers need a job.
Needed jobs. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Which
So,
is really interesting because we're talking about people barely finishing high school, and then we're talking about where it was a privilege to kind of go to these schools that your mother couldn't go to. By the time I was in high school, I looked in my yearbook, I couldn't believe it. So we're talking in the 60s, almost all of my teachers had PhDs. Where the heck did they get these PhDs from in these few years? They must have got it from the GI Bill or something, but who knows?
yeah, probably a lot of them. Yeah. PhD. Wow. I don't know that any of my high school teachers had any more than a bachelor's degree.
Somebody asked me about it, and I went back to I have the yearbook, and I went, oh my God. Well,
Okay, so here's my father's natal chart. Again, it was rectified. Needless to say, I had plenty of events to use to rectify it. When I rectify, I use a program called Sirius, and this is an older version, 1.3.
What do you mean rectify?
Rectify is when you try to figure out the birth time for somebody who doesn't have
Oh, okay.
doesn't have a known
Thank you.
birth time. Okay. And there's an astrological process where you take, based on knowing what day, you just pick a time, and then you start looking at what was going on at that time based on different charts. Well, you look at transits to the natal chart, you look at progressions, major progressions, minor progressions, you look at solar arcs, you can look at converse progressions, converse solar arcs. There's like 32 or more different types of charts that Sirius will calculate in determining determining a rectified time. Plus, you can list as many events as you want. So what it does is it creates charts and tries to match the charts and events to see what it is. And it assigns a numeric score or value to each minute of each of the hour. So basically, it will rectify 1 hour at a time. Okay. So you can start like midnight to 1 a.m. and it will do 60 full rectifications of 31 charts based on 25 events. That's what I had for my father.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then you just keep going along until you find the number that's way out, really floats high. Um, and that was how I came up with his birth time plus the birth time for my mother using her event. Um, so what do we see here? Okay, so here he is. He's an Aquarius. Looks like he was born shortly before sunrise. Got Saturn in the 12th on the ascendant and Sun in the first. Here's Mars at 12 Pisces. In the first, we've got Jupiter at 24 Pisces, the nodes at 28. Down here, we got Pluto at 18 Gemini, retrograde. Well, that's like sitting on my descendant and on my wife Susan's moon, by the way. So they got along famously. They
What
have
would you say your
Nep
relationship was with your father, and where does it show in the chart?
um, okay, well, Saturn in the 12th. Uh, we had a nice relationship, but it wasn't, he wasn't a talkative, he was an Aquarius. He wasn't talkative, loving kind of guy. What
Mm-hmm.
he enjoyed was just being out in the field working and taking care of his cows and pigs. He enjoyed
Gotcha.
doing that stuff. At night we'd come in and we'd lay around on the floor and listen to this programs on the radio, Gangbusters and The Shadow and Lone Ranger and stuff like that. That was until we got a television.
Yeah, Aquarius. That's classic Aquarius, which is the water bearer, which is the field worker or the laborer.
Yeah, which is a fixed air sign, which is the water bearer.
Yep.
Yeah, and wasn't it named after, or isn't it based on the some handsome young lad that one of the gods took under his wing as a pedophile?
In Roman mythology, it's the season where the Roman workers are repairing the frozen pipes of winter. It's the essential working person.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Roman history, rather.
Yeah. We have Virgo North Node in 8th house in Virgo. We have Uranus at 28 Sag, Venus 6 Capricorn, Mercury 19. So let's see. Well, now his Venus would square my Neptune. His Mercury would square my Chiron and my Mars. His Chiron squares my Jupiter-Venus conjunction. His Saturn trines my midheaven. His Sun trines my Mars. His Mars opposes my Sun. His Jupiter is quincunx my Jupiter. His South Node quincunx my Venus. Like I said, well, we already talked about Pluto, Uranus at 3 Cancer is conjunct my June 29th prenatal solar eclipse at 6. Got connections. But most of his stuff is going to be in my houses 1 through 6. So everything starting from everything from Uranus, all of this stuff is going to be down in my chart. It's going to be down here. First, second,
Another way to
third
answer
house.
your question, Rita, is like, what's the relationship between Jim and his father? That's the moon or the sun as Jim and the father as Saturn. And in this situation, it's conjunct, but also Saturn is combust. And so they are together, but Jim might not see his father in completion. Yeah. So, and also, he's also Jim is a hard worker, just like his father. With
it's my dad kind of was a wannabe cowboy because he would, he had a pair of cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. He would dress in Western style, Western outfit.
Well, that's interesting.
Dress up, and so we enjoyed watching Westerns, movies, and the like on television. And of course, if you think back to that time frame, the 50s in particular.
Yeah. All the Westerns on TV. All of them.
The main theme is we have our hero. The hero doesn't usually get the girl. but
Mm.
he's a good guy. He knows right from wrong. He has a code that he lives by. Uh, you take care of women and children. You protect the women and the children, and you take care of the bad guys. And that is
Archetype.
what pretty much is I inherited from him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That the work ethic and that code.
And then he's also in the 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in the limelight. He's behind
No,
closed doors.
no, he didn't. He didn't. He didn't like to go into town. He didn't
There you go.
talk on the telephone.
Mhm.
He didn't. He didn't like doing those things. He could. Uh, he didn't really care to. He didn't like to read. Um, he would come in at noon for lunch, turn on the TV, and check the stock market report on the local TV channel. And by stock market, I mean the real stock, cattle and hogs, sheep, that other paper stuff. Um, and then take about a 15 or 20-minute power nap and get up and go out back to work.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here's a little bit about derivative houses, which is sometimes referred to as Turing houses. So it's like you got to kind of let me go back and do one of these. Okay, hang on.
This goes all the way back at least to like William Lilly and before. Jim, how old
Yeah.
is that technique?
No, that
Like that?
it's I don't know where it began. But obviously I'm sure it began a long time ago.
Yeah.
Probably even before that, because
Yeah.
remember now it's like it wasn't like they had clocks and doctors were recording the birth time on people.
Never.
Most people
No.
didn't know what day they were born.
Yeah.
They
Those
wouldn't
things
know if they were
were.
born in the daytime or the nighttime.
Yeah.
If they were born in the daytime, it's probably because mom was in the field working. If they're born at night, it's because she was in the house. And so you would have to work from one chart and then derive everybody else from that. So here's my
Oh, can you go back
suggestion.
to that slide, Jim? The derivative houses? Oh,
Derivative houses? Yes. Okay, it's where you use the natives chart to represent the charts of others in their life. For example, firstborn child is represented by their fifth house, which becomes the firstborn child's first house. So the fifth house cusp becomes the firstborn child's ascendant. So you just take that chart and you just go, blink, and you look to see where everything is at. And you read those houses as 1 to 12, with the fifth house, your fifth being their first, and your fourth being their 12th.
Yeah. Okay.
Second daughter comes along, second kid comes along. Well, now it's the seventh house. So the descendant, my descendant, would become her ascendant. Making my 12th house her seventh house or house of partners. That's scary. But yes.
Well, it could be business partners or associates, or you inherit the.
Mhm. Yeah, I kind of figured we'd run kind of short on time to do many charts. So what I'd like to do next time is in next month then is continue on with this. We take a little bit to talk about Uranus and Gemini and the Uranus and Gemini, because Uranus Saturn conjunction comes up later in July. But talk about a little bit about Uranus and Gemini and then whatever else you might want to talk to. But then go back to this, and we can use, if you got some charts you want us to look at, to say, for example, what I'd like to do is take a chart of a parent and a child and compare the reading for a derivative house chart for the child to the child's actual chart. See, the one thing the derivative house doesn't take into account is the time difference. But usually, I think the idea of derivative houses came about because they were it was either to primarily to answer future questions, to predict technique. Well, what will I have a son? What will he be like? well, we do this and we turn this and we start looking and say, no, it's going to be a girl and she's going to be a bitch.
Hey, I just
Or,
did a
you know,
little. I did a
oh,
little.
no, you're right. You're lucky. You're going to have a son. He'll be a serial killer. Wonderful.
Okay, so I just did a
Oh,
quick research. Derivative houses have been used in astrology since at least the 2nd century, with earliest mentions attributed to the astrologer Vedius Valens, who based
ah,
his work on earlier traditions. And it's a
yes.
technique been utilized for various astrological practices over the centuries. So we're thinking for
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
2,000 years.
Yeah. It's an antique. It is old,
I
but there's an
remember
idea for it.
I didn't even think I believed in astrology when my son was born, which was 50 some odd years ago. But I made sure I looked at the clock so I knew the exact time. So there was a part of me that was preparing
Well,
here.
it's natural. I mean, the idea is, but any birth certificates,
Yeah,
a
but
lot
you
of
don't
times
know if
they
they're
do
right.
record
I
the
don't know.
time.
I didn't know if the hospital clock was right, but I at least looked at
Well,
the hospital
yeah,
clock. I
it's
thought,
the hospital clock is as right as it can be.
but at least
Yeah.
I knew what it was, whether the nurses put that on the paperwork or not.
Mhm. So here's what I'd kind of like to do for next month. We, like I said, talk briefly about Uranus and Gemini, but then I'd like to continue, and maybe some of you would be interested in sharing your story, your mother's story, your father's story, the story from the grandparents or something. Take a look at, if you're so inclined, to some of these potential charts. Look, see if you can figure out your conception chart. Look at what was going on in your mother's, or just go back 9 months and see what was going on with your mother at that time. What kind of astrological events were happening, astronomical events were happening during that 9 month period of your gestation, or
To
8
answer
or
this,
10, depending on early or
to
late.
answer this question, Jim, about fathers may carry traces of childhood trauma in their sperm, I think women and mothers and women in general actually absorb and carry the emotional and psychological
Oh, yes.
energetically, not just one floating sperm that's so small, but we really absorb and carry as women so much
Oh,
for
yeah,
those
definitely.
sperm.
The trauma that one inherits from their mother is going to be much more significant than the trauma they inherit from their father, with the
Not
caveat that though a male child, um, that father's trauma may be a little more pronounced for the male child.
I'm not,
Um,
I don't know. I kind of beg to differ. I think that the father is just as significant, whether they were present or not, or what their
mhm,
ancestry was or not, because
mhm.
they're passing on all unprocessed psychological wounds. And we know
Yeah,
most men
well,
don't deal with them.
yeah, and what comes out is that the testing and stuff, that studies that have been done so far seems to indicate that it's the epigenetics of the genes that are contained within the chromosome and the DNA.
Yeah, I'm talking
Um,
about how the father raised you, well or
yes,
badly. That's what I'm
that,
talking about. Yeah,
yes, um, yes, how it manifests with the father, yeah, the nurturing aspect as opposed to the nature.
right.
I
Are
was
they
going to
Yeah.
say it's nature versus nurture.
Hmm.
Hmm.
My father set a positive example, from the standpoint of being a good worker, and code and such. Um, Not exactly a warm, fuzzy, loving guy, but then my mother wasn't either, and she was a Gemini. Now, notice my father's an Aquarius, my mother's a Gemini, and I'm predominantly Libra, even though I'm a Virgo.
Jim, can I share something with you?
Yes.
Uh,
Please
I
do.
was playing with this. I don't have Solar Fire. I have my app on my phone, Astrovisor. I have astro.com to play with. But I think I found a ridiculously accurate conception time. It was kind of shocking. So, do you
Hmm.
mind if I share or no?
Not at all.
Can I do that with your situation here? Let me see.
Oh, you want to share screen?
Yeah, I'd have to share the
Hang
screen
on.
just to.
Let me just. Okay, so yeah,
I'll
so
send a
basically what I'd like you
request.
to do is think about it, look at it, and then we can talk more about them. So I've also got Pluto
Oh,
Just
dates
want to
here and
you
that
just
kind of
said
stuff.
something really quick. You said
Yes,
even though you're a Virgo, you are predominantly behave like a Libra.
yes,
So do I.
yeah, yes.
So that's kind of interesting. I'm sorry, go back to
Well,
what
it's
you
because you're
were.
born the day after me.
I know, but it's like,
What am I? 23 hours older than you.
I know, but it's funny how the Libra became more dominant.
Hmm. Well, but when you think of the mythology of Virgo Libra from Australia, okay, Libra is the only inanimate sign with an inanimate object representing it, the scales of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where do they come from? They come from the outstretched arm of Australia, who became Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
So Libra and Virgo are inextricably intertwined. We are totally connected. Yeah, I think you should be able to share now,
Did I
Jan.
do that? Okay, let's
Yeah,
try.
give it a go.
You do that now? Okay.
I'll
Yes.
just do it real quick here. Let's
Sorry, I
see.
interrupted you.
Can you see that? No, you're seeing too
Yes.
big of a thing. Can you see
Uh-huh.
that?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
see
I
it.
see it.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. All right, so look, let me just look over it real quick here. It was at
Hmm.
on a Saturday night at 11:15 p.m., which sounds like a normal time to have sex. We, you know, we
Well,
have the moon is at 4 degrees, Scorpio conjunct Neptune in the seventh house, which makes intense romantic, energy going on there. It's also that moon is very close to my ascendant. This is what's so funny to me. The fourth house, we have Mercury in Cancer. So there's talk about having a family. It makes because I'm the second child. Um, and then we have a loaded fifth house here. Sun, Venus, Uranus. I mean, they were having fun. That's the sexy time right there, as an expression of that. And what's also fun to me is that this Venus is making a grand fire trine with the ascendant, which is where my moon is natally, and Jupiter. My mom
hmm.
married my dad after only knowing him for 2 weeks. I did a whole analysis of it. He swept her off her feet basically and
No kidding.
triggered all of her idealism with her.
Yeah. Oh,
And so
that's
that's all being activated right then when
yeah.
when I
Oh.
got when I was conceived. Anyway, I
Hmm.
just had to share with you. I was like, oh my God, that is ridiculously
Mm.
accurate for my situation. And I
Hmm.
really see this Venus here tying into my moon, as big, for the moment. So
Yeah,
I just want to let you know that. I thought it was amazing. So I'm going to
it
stop.
is. It's interesting too,
Oh.
because of course, as soon as you said that your parents knew each other for 2 weeks and got married, which made me think of my wife. Her parents knew each other for a month. I think they waited longer.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure they
Which
got
is a
married.
Looney
So
Tune thing to do, but my
yeah,
mom had said it couldn't have happened any other way, so
they made
because my yeah, she's
50,
yeah, anyway.
25.
We all have our issues, but it's fun to look at
Yeah, they
that. So anyway.
50, 58 years. They were married 58 years before her mother died.
So
Yeah.
I had a
So it
discovery.
lasts.
If I have a minute, do I have time to share?
Yes, you may. Uh-huh.
So I was adopted and I found out who my birth father was about 4 years ago. My birth mother never revealed his name. I've never met my birth
Mm.
mother. I know nothing about my birth mother other than her name, her date of birth, and just that's about it. So anyway, long story short, my birth father is deceased, and when I found out who he was, I met his brother who did a DNA test and confirmed, so I met his brother, my uncle, and he tested
Mhm.
that he is my uncle. So when I was researching it, I found a contemporary of my father's who was very good friends with him. And I was born in September 5th, and he recalled for some reason almost 60 years ago that my father had gone to this crazy, wild New Year's Eve party. So the theory all along was that that was when I was conceived, but we never were really able to put together the mother and father.
Hmm.
When I do the calculation, if I go back 10 lunations, it's my biological father's birthday, which is also the day my adopted father died. So it's November 30th. But if I do it by my moon on the ascendant, it's December 31st. And I was a low birth weight, so that would make me a preemie baby, which confirms or puts more weight into like that date, the
Yeah,
December.
a month premature. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not unusual. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm just
especially under the
saying
circumstances.
it
Yeah,
fits the circumstance better than the November date for sure.
yeah. If
Right.
you, I mean, obviously, they got together, they had fun, and she got pregnant, and they went, yeah, they went their separate ways, and then she found out she was pregnant, and for whatever reason, apparently never tried to contact him. I don't
Another
know.
funny thing was that my birth father and the father that my father my dad, both had Jupiter on my ascendant. They were 12 years apart, or
Huh,
the same exact degree.
huh, how interesting.
Yeah, just
Yeah. See,
throwing it out
that,
there.
yep, not
Yeah,
a
I think
coincidence.
this
Just,
research piece is really important. That
hmm
Darlene's saying. For me, like none of my parents or grandparents' stories were ever discussed during my childhood. So what I did was actually go back and requested records through Allegheny County, Department of Records for death
hmm
certificates of my grandparents or any, and I ended up getting their death certificates, which is why I found out that they both died. My paternal grandparents both died when I was in utero, which set the stage for a lot of chaos. Found out
Oh,
that
yes.
my
Yeah.
brother was only 5 months old when I was conceived. They were like building a house and then also I found that they sent me the ship manifests and the draft orders for my grandparents. And I found out that my grandmother, like my paternal grandparents, were born in Slovenia, but she became a servant when she was 12 or 13 and went to Germany, and they came over separately, didn't know one another when they were 14 and 16 years old, to Ellis Island. So I
hmm
didn't find out any of these things because from my own family. Like no one could have told me, no one discussed it, or it was totally covered up.
hmm
Families notoriously cover up every story. So if it
hmm
wasn't for my doing research, I would have never confirmed
Wow, yeah.
yeah,
any of it.
Right.
yeah.
Did your
That's
parents die at the same time? Did the grandparents die at the same time, or was it separate when you were being conceived?
One was right before or right around the time I was conceived, and within the year. And the grandfather died first, and it must have been incredibly difficult for my father because the grandfather was very abusive. So,
Wow.
not a loving father, but it's passing, you're mourning the loss of a father that what never was in a way. And then my
hmm
grandmother died right before I was born. So within that year,
Wow.
which is
I
very typically like people are coming and going at the same time. This is
Could you
typical.
yeah.
send me a copy of your chart sometime? I'd love to look at it.
Oh my gosh,
Think about it.
it's intense.
Okay, so it's almost 3 o'clock, and so what we will continue with this at our May meeting. If you've got something you would like to share with the people, maybe you could just send me the information, and I will do. If you want some help researching when your conception date might be, just let me know, and I will pull up some dates for you, and you can play with them.
We have our
Thank
own
Um,
you.
Henry Gates Jr. going on right here. Henry
yeah,
Louis Gates
yeah.
Jr. going on right here.
hmm Okay. So thank you all very much for coming and
Thank
for
you.
sticking with us. I really appreciate it. And if you've got any other thoughts that come up about prenatal astrology, what we've been talking about, um, let me know. Share them, and because it's probably something I hadn't thought about, or if the thought ever entered my brain, it went, you know, through real fast. It's probably in one of the rooms in the house somewhere. I just haven't found it again. So, but again, thank you so much.
If
Thank
Um,
anybody
you.
joined, if anybody joined a little late, remind them we're not going to meet on the 10th.
yeah,
We're meeting on the 17th
yes. May will
in
be the
May.
17th
And Jim,
for
tell
those of
me the
you
sources for this configure how to find this information. Who are the best sources for it again?
for your
Conception.
conception chart.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't actually looked online. I did check. I checked astro.com because that's the most popular one, but I could not. It didn't appear that they have a conception chart to do a
No, they
conception
don't.
chart.
They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
So
planning.
I was able to do it because SolarFire does it.
But
Uh,
so you don't know who came up with this? Who did come up with the concept of the natal moon on the ascendant of the conception chart
I
and
think that goes back to Alice Bailey,
Alice
and it
Bailey?
may go back farther than that because it's in SolarFire. It's called the Bailey conception method.
Okay.
And when
All right.
when the screen pops up, you have the option of specifying 9 or 10 or 11 month lunar cycles, depending upon whether you know you were early or late or whatever.
Okay.
And then you have some other options you can pick in there too. So there's some other sources. But
Well,
yeah,
I just looked for the 10 months date and then the 40 weeks date and then just started to play, to
yeah,
find, and but it was just bizarrely accurate to me as a time to have sex. I mean,
isn't
it
it
just
though?
made sense. So
Hmm.
anyway,
It is
okay.
written.
It
Yes, you
is
see there.
written.
Yes, it is written. Yes. We have less free will
Thank
than
you,
we
Jim.
think we have. Okay. Well,
So
thank you,
great,
everybody.
Jim.
Take care.
Thank
I'll
You.
be
you.
good.
Thank you.
And
Bye
we'll see
bye.
you on Happy Mother's Day for those of you who are mothers. And
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
all
you,
righty.
everybody, for participating.
Bye bye, Jim.
Bye.
And
Bye-bye.
I
Thank
will,
you,
Thank you so
I
everybody.
will,
much.
I will make it a point to get this video set up and send you the link soon.
Okay. Bye
All
bye,
right.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.